I restart civilization in the 27th century. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 Jinman Guard. The next day, Chang Ning, feeling refreshed, came to the cockpit after having dinner early in the morning. The ancient beauty is really good. He did not wait for Xiao Bao and started the Yuanfang alone, using this small safe haven to continue to drive north. At noon, facing the northeast of the rising sun, the Yuanfang turned over the mountain and began to head west into the Bohai Sea. Chang Ning asked Xiao Bao to take over the boat in the name of going to the toilet, and then ran to the entertainment hall in the lower cabin to find Yang Bao and Yang Qian to have fun. After an afternoon of singing and dancing, Chang Ning was sweating all over. He returned to his room to take a shower and then went down to the cockpit to find Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao had already adapted to Chang Ning throwing work to him. Seeing Chang Ning come back, he was very calm and his heart was calm. It's past 5 o'clock again. Should we find a place to spend the night again? Xiao Bao said without turning his head. Chang Ning frowned and looked at the scenery on the seaside, trying to identify where he was. But there are no conspicuous buildings or tall signboards after the doomsday. All you can see is a desolate beach. There is no landmark to determine the location. It seems that we can only find a human gathering point by approaching the shore to find out the current location. Wait. Chang Ning carefully recalled the geographical knowledge in his mind. If the Bohai Bay is likened to a circle, then Jinmen Port should be at the westernmost end of this circle. In other words, if the direction of the coast changes from northwest to due north, it should be almost at Jinmen Port. Chang Ning compared it with the compass in his hand and identified it. Now the ship is still sailing in the northwest direction, which means that it has not reached the location of Jinmen Port. But the angle of deviation is very small, and it should be almost there. Looking at the sky, it is estimated that it will take another 2 hours before it gets dark. Chang Ning said decisively, "Keep driving. It is estimated that we are almost there, and it will not be too late to anchor overnight when we get there." Xiao Bao nodded and continued to sail north along the coastline. Sure enough, less than half an hour after driving out, there were a lot of traces of land reclamation on the seashore. It should be a more prosperous city before the doomsday disaster. After driving a short distance forward, a wide river estuary appeared on the shore. "Go in," Chang Ning commanded. Xiao Bao carefully turned the Yuanfang and drove into the river. There is a huge port every few hundred meters in the river. It seems that it was a very busy shipping center before the end of the world. The port and the edge of the river are also full of damaged ships like the Pujiang River. After driving a short distance forward, the river became narrower and narrower, and a small hill appeared on the shore. There was a line of huge rock-carved words on the mountain, which Chang Ning could see clearly. Dagukao Fort Ruins Park. Here we are. Seeing these words, Chang Ning confirmed that they had arrived in Jinmen, and now they should be at the mouth of the Hay River. Chang Ning knew that the Hay River was not a big enough river. It was only a little wider near the estuary. If it went upstream, the Yuanfang could not sail at all. In Jinmen, there is also the estuary of the Yangding River. This river can go directly to Yanjing, but unfortunately it was very narrow before the end of the world and could not pass large ships. After the end of the world, it was even worse without anyone to manage it. So when we got here, we could only abandon the ship and go ashore to Yanjing by land. It was getting late, and there were no signs of other human towns on the shore. They could only spend another night on the Yuanfang and set off again tomorrow. Yang Qian and Yang Bao were not very happy that night. 2 days of sailing had made them fall in love with the Yuanfang and the entertainment activity of karaoke. So on the last night, before leaving the Yuanfang, the two of them sang loudly in the entertainment hall in the bottom cabin. Xiao Bao, who had been driving the boat for 2 days, also joined them and howled in the bottom cabin. It was that the decoration of this ship was high-end and the sound insulation was very good. Otherwise, Chang Ning was afraid that the three of them would attract some sea beasts. While the three were singing, Chang Ning was lying alone on the deck chair, looking at the starry sky. The route for tomorrow's departure should be to the northwest, and I don't know if we can encounter other human towns along the way. If we do, are these human settlements around Yanjing similar to the farming and reading society around Kangcheng? Or have they already entered full industrialization? Also, how did Yun Yi get to Yanjing after kidnapping Li Ling? It had only been 4 or 5 days since Yun Yi left when he and his group sailed north. Would it be possible that Yun Yi had already arrived in Yanjing before he arrived? Where should he go to find Yun Yi after arriving in Yanjing? Which research institute ruins in Yanjing had the highest chance of finding Substance X? Chang Ning carefully considered all these. It was not until Yang Bao, Yun Kai Kian and Xiang Bao dragged their tired bodies out of the entertainment hall that he stood up and went back to his room with them to sleep. The next morning, before the 3 of them got up, Chang Ning got up first and started the Yuan Fang again. He sailed upstream along the He River. After walking for more than 20 minutes, the river ahead became very narrow. There were still many ruins of bridges collapsed on the riverside before the end of the world. There should be many obstacles under the water. Chang Ning had no choice but to moor the Yuan Fang, called the 3 teammates to eat breakfast, and got off the boat and set off on foot. After getting off the boat, there was a lush forest on the shore. Just like Shanghai, 300 years have allowed nature to return to the city. The prosperous streets and buildings in Shenzhen should have turned into ruins under this forest. However, the forest here is obviously different from that in Shanghai. In the forests around Shanghai, there are many shrubs and weeds, and vines are scattered all over the ground. It is very difficult to walk in the forest far away from human gathering places. The surface of Shenzhen is much cleaner. Although there are some weeds, they are barely above the knees, so it is much easier to walk. The 4 people continued to walk upstream along the He River. This time, each of them carried a huge backpack. Because it takes 4 or 5 days to walk from Shenzhen to Yanjing in this era, if there is no supply point in the middle, they will be at a loss. Therefore, the supplies for this trip are very sufficient. From tents, drinking water, food to weapons and daily necessities, there is everything. Of course, Yang Bao's backpack is the lightest, with only 4 large down sleeping bags stuffed in it. Chang Ning, Xiang Bao and Yun Kai Kian's backpacks are all heavier. Chang Ning and Yun Kai Kian's physique is still very easy to carry backpacks of this weight. As a relic hunter, Xiang Bao had to carry dozens of kilograms of things and walk for several days, so no one felt tired. After walking for more than 2 hours, the forest in front gradually disappeared, and a huge grassland appeared in front of them. This kind of open grassland terrain is not available in the vicinity of Yancheng. Yang Bao and Yun Kai Kian couldn't help but feel refreshed, and they jumped and walked faster. Hush! There are people in front. Xiang Bao grabbed them and pointed to the front. Chang Ning also looked up. More than a kilometer away, at the junction of the forest and the grassland, more than a dozen people ran out of the woods. In front of the crowd was a huge cow. It seemed that a group of hunters were hunting this bison. The bison moved and ran towards Chang Ning and his group. The group of hunters followed closely behind, and when they ran to the center of the grassland, they saw the figures of Chang Ning and his group. Then they all screamed and stopped chasing the bison. They turned around and dispersed. Chapter 150 to Jinghe City. Hey, don't run. Chang Ning finally met a group of people, and he wanted to go up and say hello and make some friends. At the very least, he could ask for directions or something. After all, it was their first time to come to Shenzhen, their first time to go to Yanjing, and they were unfamiliar with the place. But the group of hunters saw Chang Ning and his 4 friends as if they had seen a devil. They didn't care about the cattle, and even some of them threw away their spears and just ran back with their heads covered. What are they doing? Are we so scary? Xiang Bao scratched his head beside him. Yun Kai Kian snorted, stomped her feet and ran wildly, chasing after the fleeing crowd. The group of people looked like ordinary people, and they didn't run fast. A minute later, Yun Kai Kian caught up with the 3 teenagers, who were running together, and kicked each of them, sending the 3 flying and falling on the grass. Of course, Yun Kai Kian didn't use much force, and the 3 people just stumbled and fell, but they were not seriously injured. Why are you running? She pinched her waist and asked in front of the 3 people. The three boys' eyes almost popped out of their heads in fear, and they just kept kowtowing. Master, spare me. Master, spare me. Chang Ning rushed over from behind, looked at the three boys on the ground, and asked gently, "Don't be afraid, where are you from? We are not the masters you mentioned. You have recognized the wrong people. You don't need to be afraid of us." The three looked up at Chang Ning, and then quickly lowered their heads. "We are from Jinghe City. We just came out to hunt, and we didn't violate the rules of the masters. Master, spare me. Master, spare me." Jinghe City? Chang Ning frowned. From the name, it should be a city near Xian in the old world. But why are they so scared? Who are the masters they are talking about? What rules have been set for them? He felt that these kids were a little scared, and he probably wouldn't get any valuable clues by asking them normally, so he thought for a while, and asked another question. "Then tell me, what are the rules?" The boy in the middle seemed to be the calmest among the three. He trembled for a moment, swallowed his saliva, and said bravely, "The little ones always remember that they must not leave Jinghe City for more than 30 miles. We have just come out for more than 10 miles, and there is still a distance from 30 miles. We will not continue to move forward. At most, we will go back if we can't catch any prey in about 20 miles. Not leaving Jinghe City for more than 30 miles. It sounds like the people in this city are imprisoned?" Chang Ning asked again, "What will happen if you leave for more than 30 miles? Kill. Kill without mercy." The boy lowered his head again. Chang Ning nodded. It seemed that they had been intimidated by a group of powerful guys. Those guys might be wearing handful like Chang Ning and his friends, so they would be afraid instinctively when they saw Chang Ning. However, they can't leave Jinghe City for 30 miles. Can those guys who threaten them have such a wide range? How can they be sure how far these people are from Jinghe City? Could it be that there are sentries around Jinghe City? Chang Ning recalled that he had just set out from the Yuanfang and walked all the way here without seeing anyone. With Chang Ning's current strength, there are two other Grandmaster level awakeners in the team, Yang Qian and Yang Bao, as well as an experienced old relic hunter Xiang Bao who has traveled all over the country for many years. It is impossible that someone nearby is observing them, but they didn't notice it. Unless the strength of the people observing them is above the Grandmaster level. But this is too outrageous. Chang Ning already felt it was strange that Lanling City had an extraordinary land linking. Even if the overall strength of Yanjing and Xianjin was higher than that of Lanling City, it was impossible for them to use Grandmaster level awakeners to stand sentry. Seeing the three teenagers trembling on the ground, Chang Ning couldn't bear to continue asking, so he said to them, "You can go." The three of them ran away with thousands of thanks, as if they had been pardoned. Yang Qian jumped up and said, "Who is so bullying and can restrict people's activities?" Chang Ning shook his head and said, "We are new here, so we should not be too high profile. Let's continue to move forward. If we can find clues about the people who restricted them, we will take a look. If not, we will go to Yanjing to ask around. It seems that they have been restricted for a long time. There must be a huge organization behind them, and it will not be solved in a short time." Xiang Bao and Yang Bao both nodded in agreement. Yang Qian kicked up a small stone and said nothing. Jinghe City is more than 10 miles southwest of here. The four-man team is walking northwest along the He River, which is not on the way. And seeing the terrified look of these people when they saw Chang Ning was afraid that if the four-man team turned to Jinghe City to take a look, many people inside would be scared to death. So they did not change the route and continued to go up the river. After walking another 10 kilometers, the He River has become very narrow, just like the small rivers that can be seen everywhere near Yancheng. The forest here is gradually sparse, and the terrain ahead is mainly grassland. What is that? Yang Bao's facial features were very sharp. When everyone was on their way, she suddenly looked up and pointed to the sky in the south. Chang Ning looked in the direction of her hand and saw a small four-wing aircraft flying in the sky, patrolling slowly about 2 kilometers to the south. It's a drone. Chang Ning suddenly realized that the group relied on drones to monitor the people in Jinghe City. The field of view of drones is very wide. If a few more are deployed, every move of Jinghe City will not escape the eyes of the people behind the scenes. That's why the people in Jinghe City are so scared. who is so perverted that they still play such a boring game at the end of the world. However, this is also the same as the battery of the Yanjing battery factory that Chang Ning found in Yancheng, which indirectly proves that the science and technology near Yanjing should be very developed. Even drones can be made. You know, this is also a very sophisticated thing in the old world. Just as the 4 people were pointing at the drone also discovered them. It turned, changed its lazy posture, and rushed towards Chang Ning and the others. But half a minute later, the drone flew over the 4 people's heads like a fly, circling around them. Young Kai and Qian stared at the drone and prepared for a battle. The drone was frightened and suddenly rose several dozen meters high. It seems that this drone is being controlled by someone in real time. With the current doomsday technology, even if it can be remotely controlled, the person controlling it must not be far away. Chang Ning secretly came to a conclusion in his heart, then ran up a small hill next to him and looked around. There were large grasslands and sparse forests around, and the field of vision could see a long distance. Chang Ning found that there were 2 small black dots moving towards him in the west direction. The speed was not very fast, but it was definitely not slow. After a few minutes, the black dots gradually approached, and Chang Ning could see clearly that they were 2 people on horseback. Chapter 153 Research Institute. Chang Ning was of course familiar with horses. In the 21st century, horses were basically used for sports and entertainment. But 300 years after the apocalypse, it seemed that horses had returned to the function of their ancestors, a means of transportation. 2 people rode their horses and talked and laughed towards Chang Ning and his friends, and soon they approached the 4 of them. Both riders were men. One was thin, with shaggy hair and a beard. The other was more sturdy, with a shaved head, shining in the sun. Chang Ning could see that the thin man was holding a remote control in his hand, and it was obvious that he was operating the drone. "Hey, where are you from?" the thin man shouted when he was still 40 or 50 meters away, with a very impolite tone. Chang Ning frowned. "Mad dog, don't rush like that. What if it's a big shot?" The bald man pulled the thin man called Mad Dog to the side, but his tone was also contemptuous, but he was not that scared. It was obvious that these 2 people were used to running rampant in the vicinity. Mad Dog sneered, turned to the bald man and said, "Big shot. In this area, the research institute is the biggest." When the horse came a few steps closer, he said to Chang Ning and the others, "Hey, I'm asking you a question. Are you deaf?" Young Kai and Qian couldn't bear it anymore, and she sprinted to the side of the horse, jumped up and kicked at Mad Dog. Mad Dog saw young Kai and Qian move, and immediately took a defensive posture. But before he got into position, he felt a heavy blow to his lower abdomen, just like being hit by a sledgehammer. His body was unstable in an instant, and he flew off the horse's back. Bang! Mad Dog fell heavily to the ground and spit out a mouthful of blood. The bald man next to him was stunned, looking at Mad Dog, then at young Kai and Qian, his lips trembling for a long time. "Grandmaster. Grandmaster? Mad Dog is a high-level awakener. Only a Grandmaster can beat Mad Dog so badly in a face-to-face encounter." He quickly turned over and got off the horse, making a flattering expression. "Ouch. Mad Dog is blind and can't recognize the great man. Don't bother with him." Then he walked over and kicked the still bleeding Mad Dog. "I've reminded you not to be so arrogant. How about it? You met a real god, right? Look at your dog-like appearance. Bah." Then he spit on the face of Mad Dog and then turned around and nodded to the 4 people. "Calm down. Calm down." Chang Ning was amused by him, walked forward a few steps and said to the bald man, "Which institute are you from?" He just heard Mad Dog say the word institute and was very interested. "Which institute?" The bald man rolled his eyes and stammered, "It's that institute. Isn't it just one institute? Our institute?" Chang Ning was thoughtful. It seemed that this so-called institute should be a giant force in a large area nearby. Just like the holy city on the Ludi Peninsula, people nearby know what it refers to when they mention it, without adding special attributives or explanations. Thinking of this, Chang Ning put his hands behind his back and made a scissors gesture. This was the secret code he had discussed with the 3 people behind him on the boat before, and acted according to the second plan. "Oh, it's that research institute." Chang Ning pretended to be suddenly aware. isn't it? Hehe, ha 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 ha. The bald man laughed awkwardly. At this time, the mad dog on the ground groaned and slowed down a little and began to howl. Young Kian stepped forward, bowed behind Chang Ning and said, "Young master, do you want to just shut him up?" The bald man's pupils shrank instantly. This grandmaster level awakener girl looks like just a maid of this young man. What kind of strength does this person have to be able to take a grandmaster as a maid? In other words, how big is the power behind him? The so-called second plan is that Chang Ning pretends to be a young master of a big power. Young Kian and Yang Bao are his maids, and Xiang Bao is his servant. Chang Ning will create an image of master from a powerful force to deceive the enemy, because it is hard to say what kind of people and things he will encounter in Yanjing. Judging from the line linking in Lanling City, the Grandmaster level awakeners may not be the top combat force in the north. In this case, it will be difficult for Chang Ning and his team to contact the core area of Yanjing, and it will not be convenient to explore the X-Substance and Yunyi's affairs. If they pretend to be from an unfathomable force, it will quickly attract the attention of the top leaders in Yanjing, and it will be much easier to act. They discussed this plan before the Jinman Guard set out, but they didn't expect to use it so soon. Chang Ning waved his hands and said to Yun Kian, "What are you doing? All you do is kill people all day long. Look at this bald guy, he's quite cute. It's such a pity to kill him." The bald guy became even more frightened and nodded and said, "Yes, yes, yes. Young master is right." Then he turned around and kicked the mad dog again and whispered, "Stop howling." The mad dog seemed to have seen the situation here. He was sweating profusely in pain, but he still held back the howling. He just rolled silently on the ground with his mouth open. It seemed that his internal organs were seriously injured. Chang Ning saw that the mad dog had stopped howling, nodded with satisfaction, and said to the bald man, "That research institute, which research institute is it? This young master is new to your precious place, so I don't quite understand." The bald man was sweating again and slapped himself. "Look at me. I don't think about you at all. The full name of the research institute is Yanjing Old World Science and Technology Inheritance and Research Laboratory, and its headquarters is in Yanjing City. Yanjing City is more than 200 miles away from here, in the northwest, from..." Chang Ning waved his hand to interrupt him again. "Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let me ask you, what do you and this mad dog do in the research institute?" "To answer your question, we are the controllers of the Jinghe City experimental field." Jinghe City experimental field. Chang Ning remembered the group of people he had just met. They were full of fear of humans and the outside world, which should be brought to them by the people in this research institute. "What does the Jinghe experimental factory do?" he asked with interest. The bald man smiled apologetically. "Look at what you said, sir. The two of us are just to control the experimental subjects and prevent them from running around. We are just two errand boys. How can we know what experiments are being done in the experimental field?" Chang Ning nodded. "Who is doing the experiment?" "It's Dr. Jiang." "Drive Jiang?" "Yes, yes. Dr. Jiang from Yanjing City. But he is very busy. He only comes to Jinghe City every 2 or 3 months to collect experimental data and arrange the next stage of experimental tasks." "Oh, that's it." "Yes." The bald man's head was covered in sweat, but he still forced a bright smile on his face. "That's it. How many experimental fields are there like this?" Chang Ning continued to ask. "A lot. There are at least 40 or 50 around Yanjing City." "Is the Dr. Jiang you mentioned in Yanjing?" "Yeah, Dr. Jiang usually stays in the headquarters in Yanjing." "How many people are there in the Yanjing headquarters? How strong are the awakened ones?" We are just 2 minions. How can we know these secrets? But in terms of the number of people, I guess there are at least 2 or 3,000 people." Chang Ning nodded and asked almost everything. So he moved forward, grabbed the bald man's neck, squeezed it gently, broke his larynx, and then threw it into the Hay River next to him. In the horrified eyes of the mad dog, he kicked him into the river. In an instant, a huge flapping sound came from the river, and the 2 men were seen to be dismembered by the monster in the water. Anyway, they are full of evil, and I don't know how much blood is stained on their hands. They deserve to die. Yanjing. It doesn't look that simple. Chapter 154 Galloping. After quickly dealing with the two scums, Chang Ning came to the front of the horses they were riding. There was a bag on each horse's back. Chang Ning picked up the bag and dumped the contents on the ground. Food and water are basic supplies. There are also two large items, which are batteries from the Yanjing battery factory that Chang Ning has seen. They seem to be used to charge drones. In addition, there are two small iron boxes and two cards. The contents of the two small iron boxes are similar. There are more than a dozen cigarettes from the old world, a few candies, and a heavy pile of 1 yuan coins from the old world. It seems that this coin is also one of the main currencies within the scope of the research institute. The two cards each have the names and positions of the two people written on them. The cards are hard, a bit like the magnetic cards of the old world. It seems that they should have some magnetism and can be swiped. While Chang Ning was rummaging through the two people's packages, Yang Qian Qian and Yang Bao each walked to a horse and touched the horse's face. What is this? Yang Qian Qian was relatively ignorant. It looks so cute. Is this the legendary horse? Yang Bao seemed to have heard of this thing, but had never seen it. Chang Ning nodded. This is a horse. You can ride it, and you can eat it, if you are really hungry. Eat? Yang Qian Qian's eyes widened. It's so cute. How can you eat it? Chang Ning laughed, picked up the iron box and two cards, and put them in his bag, then stood up. It seems that the main force in Yanjing is the research institute, which has a wide range of radiation. Jinghe City is more than 200 miles away from Yanjing, and it can set up an experimental field here. He thought about it and continued, then we have to be more high profile when we go to Yanjing this time, otherwise such a big force may completely ignore us. Xiang Bao nodded. Yes, that's how relic hunters are. When you go to a small village or town, you will be treated well. When you go to a big city, basically, except for exchanging things with you, they will ignore you. As he said, he looked up at Yang Bao. Yang Bao snorted coldly. It's not like this in our Yangcheng. Chang Ning interrupted their quarrel. Okay, let's still follow the second plan, but it should be more high profile than the original plan. More high profile? How else can it be done? Xiang Bao was a little confused. Just act as you wish on the way. Chang Ning did not give a specific explanation, but turned to look at the two horses. He touched the head of the black horse beside him, then turned around and jumped onto the horse's back. Whoosh! The big black horse cried out and snorted. Chang Ning pinched the horse's belly, and the black horse immediately trotted. I want to ride too. I want to ride a horse too. Yang Qian Qian shouted behind him. Chang Ning rode the horse in a small circle and returned to the few people. Qian Qian and Yang Bao, you two can ride a horse together. What about me? Xiang Bao pointed to his nose. There were only two horses here. Aren't you an awakener of the Gale system? You still want to ride a horse? You're really embarrassing the Gale. Chang Ning spat. No. Do you have any misunderstandings about the Gale system? Does the Gale system have no human rights? Xiang Bao pinched his waist and said. Yang Qian Qian and Yang Bao next to them had already climbed onto the horse. The two of them rode together and stood there, not knowing how to start. Pinch the horse's belly gently. Chang Ning instructed from the side. Yes, just like that. Run. The two girls' big yellow horses also started to move. Hold the reins with both hands and pull whichever direction you want to turn. It's almost the same as riding a bicycle. Soon, Yang Bao and Yang Qian Qian also mastered the skills of riding horses. Yang Bao has long legs and is responsible for squeezing the horse's belly to speed up. Yang Qian Qian sits in front and is responsible for controlling the reins. Let's go. Chang Ning squeezed the horse's belly fiercely, and the big black horse under his crotch ran wildly. Yang Bao and Yang Qian Qian also controlled the horses to follow behind. Hey, you really don't care about me. Xiang Bao ran after him. He is a wind awakener, and with a little acceleration, he can run faster than a horse. But among the four people, only he has no horse to ride. He feels isolated, and complains while running. Let us keep each other company in the world and live freely. Yang Qian Qian couldn't stand Xiang Bao's complaints, so she simply sang the song she learned in the entertainment room of Yuan Fang. Ride the horse and gallop, share the prosperity of the world. Yang Bao also sang along. Sing to the wine, sing out the joy in your heart, live vigorously, and grasp the youth. Chang Ning also joined the chorus. For a while, under the scorching sun of early autumn, loud singing rang out on the grassland from Xianjin to Yanjing. 2 tall horses were carrying a man, a woman and a child and running wildly, followed by a big man carrying a big bag and chattering. After running for more than 2 hours, it was already noon. The 2 horses were so tired that they were sweating all over and foaming at the mouth. Chang Ning and his men finally slowly pulled the reins and stopped. We must have walked 50 or 60 miles. Xiao Bao also caught up from behind, his face not red and his breath not panting. Chang Ning nodded. Just now they turned along the He River to the North Canal, and then followed the North Canal to the Yangding River. Now as long as they walk upstream along the Yangding River, they will reach Yanjing. Now they are almost out of the scope of Xianjin in the old world. The ruins of buildings around them are gradually decreasing, and they have come to a pure wilderness. The 3 horsemen dismounted by the river and let the horses drink water by themselves. The road was still dominated by open grasslands, and it was particularly exciting to ride a horse. However, Yan Kai and Qian and Yang Bao, who were riding horses for the first time, were not feeling well. Yan Kai and Qian was fine, as she had the physical foundation of Master Level Shineman Awakener. But Yang Bao, a Stargate Awakener, was not so good. As soon as he got off the horse, he covered his butt and rubbed it there, and his walking posture was also very strange. It seemed that his butt and inner thighs were rubbed hard during the riding process. Take a break. Chang Ning handed Yang Bao a water bottle, then walked to a small hill next to him and looked around. It should have been a densely populated area before the end of the world, but now there is no trace of human activity at all. Wait. In the forest to the west, there seem to be some vague outlines of buildings. What kind of building can still stand here after 300 years, or is this a human gathering place after the end of the world? Chang Ning decided to go over and take a look. He told Yang Bao and Yan Kai and Qian to stay by the river and rest, and not go anywhere, and then took Xiao Bao to the forest, where the building was. After a while, the 2 approached the forest, and then slowed down their pace at the same time. The encounter in Jinghe City in the morning made them afraid that, if this was a gathering place for humans after the apocalypse, would the residents there be scared by the 2 of them showing up so brazenly. It turned out that they were worrying too much until they approached the building. They didn't hear any sound or see anyone. This is an abandoned building. The building is a little dilapidated, but it is still intact. There is no nameplate at the door, but judging from the style, Chang Ning knew that it should be the garrison of a certain unit in the Yanjing military region before the apocalypse. His eyes lit up, and he should be able to find what he wants here. Chapter 155 Armored Vehicle. Entering the broken gate, on the left is a playground and a training ground, which are now covered by plants. Only some vague target positions and climbing poles and other training facilities can be seen. On the right is a half-collapsed building, which looks like the former military administrative agency. Continuing to walk back, many buildings appeared on the weedy roadside, dormitories, canteens, bathhouses. Without exception, these buildings have been looted. Looking in from the broken window, almost all the storage furniture inside has been opened, and there are not many intact things. It seems that you relic hunters have visited here a lot. Chang Ning turned his head and said to Xiao Bao, there is nothing to visit here, except for the first wave of food and weapons, which are of some value. The relic hunters who came later are all picking up junk. Xiao Bao curled his lips, quite disdainful, and paused and said, but the looting is really clean. The 2 walked for about 20 minutes, and a hill appeared in front of them. There was a huge iron gate on the hill, which was locked. But it seems that your colleagues failed to break through this door. Chang Ning walked over and looked into the keyhole in front of the iron gate. This should be the arsenal of this unit. That's not necessarily true. Xiao Bao followed him, pulled Chang Ning's sleeve, and pointed to the side. Look there. Chang Ning looked in the direction of his finger and saw a hole dug on the hill not far from the iron gate. It looked a bit old. A hole for stealing? Chang Ning didn't expect to encounter this thing in an arsenal, but the walls inside should also be made of iron. It shouldn't be possible to dig through it by digging a hole, right? Won't we know if we go in and take a look? Xiao Bao walked over there first. Chang Ning followed him and came to the dug hole. The hole was not big, only about 1 meter wide. It was enough for one person to go down, but it shouldn't be able to bring out anything big. Xiao jumped down directly. After a while, a muffled voice came from the cave entrance. Come down. You can get in. Chang Ning took out a flashlight, unscrewed it, put it in his mouth and bit it, and jumped down. The cave was not deep, only about 10 meters, and it led to the inside of the hill along a slope of 20 to 30 degrees. Look. This is the wisdom of our ancestors. Xiao pointed to the front. This earth hole was actually facing the exhaust system of the arsenal. The hole went all the way down and faced almost the only gap on the wall of the arsenal. There should have been a huge exhaust fan with a diameter of more than 1.5 meters here, but it was removed, revealing only a black hole entrance, and inside was the inside of the arsenal. Really great. There are top talents in every field. Chang Ning was a little surprised and turned over and passed the exhaust fan hole and entered the inside of the arsenal. It was dark inside, and Chang Ning scanned the surroundings with a flashlight. Many shelves had collapsed and looked a little messy. He walked forward along the collapsed shelves. Opened wooden boxes wrapped in oilcloth could be seen everywhere on the ground. They should have stored grenades, bullets and other supplies. It seemed that they were all taken away by the previous visitors. After walking for 100 meters, Chang Ning came to the warehouse door. The lock on the door was very similar to the air-deafened door in Richard's laboratory in Shanghai. Chang Ning turned the internal winch, and with a teeth-grinding creaking sound, the door lock opened with a bang. He pulled hard and opened the door of the arsenal from the inside, and the sunlight from outside immediately shone in. Now the view of the entire arsenal was much clearer. It can be seen that the shelves storing light weapons and gunpowder have basically been emptied. There is almost no rifle in the entire warehouse, and there are only a few bullets dropped on the ground. On the left is the place where military vehicles are stored, which is quite intact. There are rows of armored vehicles, artillery, and tanks, with a total of about 100 vehicles. Chang Ning walked quickly to the vehicle area. When he got closer, he found that the detachable firepower on the outside of these vehicles had almost been disassembled. The machine guns on the armored vehicles were left with only a base, but the artillery and tanks were mostly intact. Chang Ning thought about it and aimed at the armored vehicles. Artillery can't be driven, and as for tanks, to be honest, he is not sure he can drive them, and the comfort is too poor. He came here to find a vehicle just to show off and raise his status, not to really fire in Yanjing. So even if the armored vehicle has no firepower, it should be enough. He aimed at the armored vehicle in the front, concentrated his mind, and released the power of the Stasi in his brain. After a familiar refresh process, the armored vehicle returned to its brand new state when it was just out of the factory and stopped in front of Chang Ning. Chang Ning nodded with satisfaction, looked around again, and found the oil tank in another corner. When he walked over, he found that most of these oil tanks had been opened, and it was unknown whether they stored diesel or gasoline. They were either taken away by the people who came in front, or evaporated. Fortunately, there were 2 unopened diesel tanks. Chang Ning put one of them on the ground, pushed it in front of the armored vehicle, and filled the mailbox with diesel. If there was really no fuel in this arsenal, Chang Ning could only arrange Xiao to run back to the Yuanfang to get some. Xiao didn't know that he almost became an errand boy again. He squatted beside Chang Ning and watched Chang Ning refuel. Are you going to Yanjing by car? When he was in Yancheng, he had ridden in the car refreshed by Chang Ning. It was very comfortable to drive on the Unravels expressway, but when it came to the wilderness without roads, it felt very sour. Chang Ning nodded. Don't be afraid, this is an armored vehicle designed specifically for off-roading, and the suspension system is very good. Xiao pouted and stood up. Not long after, the fuel was filled. Chang Ning opened the door and sat in. Then he opened the door and got out. What's wrong? Xiao asked. Chang Ning said unhappily, the key is not in the car. Bad review. After searching for a long time in the small storage room next to him, Chang Ning finally found a large box of vehicle keys. According to the number of the armored vehicle just now, Chang Ning took out its key. Come on. Get in the car. Chang Ning entered the armored vehicle again and started the vehicle, waving to Xiao. Xiang Bao's face was a little pale, but he still got in the car. The vehicle started slowly. Because of the good off-road suspension system, it was not very bumpy. This is okay. Xiang Bao patted the seat. Compared with the car called SUV that Yanqing had sat in, it was a bit hard, but it was not unacceptable. Sitting in this as a vehicle to Yanqing is also a good choice. It's okay. Chang Ning turned his head and glanced at him. We will meet up with Qian Qian and Yang Bao later. Then the 2 horses will be given to you. You can ride one and lead the other. Didn't you keep complaining about not having a horse to ride just now? Xiang Bao. Chang Ning, what's wrong? Xiang Bao growled. Chang Ning, be a good person. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156 Airport. In the end, Chang Ning did not let Xiang Bao ride a horse behind the armored vehicle. After they drove the armored vehicle back to the place where Yang Bao and Yan Qian Qian rested, they untied the saddles and bridles of the horses and released the 2 horses on the spot. Although Chang Ning and his team did not find any special marks on the horses, if the people from the institute could tell that the 2 horses were theirs, it would be a disaster. I'm afraid that they will be treated as enemies from the beginning. So the 4 of them got into the armored vehicle. Chang Ning sat in the driver's seat, Xiang Bao in the co-pilot seat, Yan Qian Qian and Yang Bao sat in the back seat. It must be said that the space of this armored vehicle is quite large, which is completely enough for ordinary big soldiers to move around in it, load guns, and make vehicle-mounted tactical actions. The 4 of them were in the car, plus for huge luggage bags, without any pressure. The journey from Xianjin to Yanjing is mainly grassland terrain, and the forests are sparsely scattered in small clumps. So even if there is no road, the armored vehicle is still unhindered. Even if the road conditions are very bad, the car will only bump around a bit, and it won't break down. Even if there is a small problem with any part, Chang Ning can refresh it without any effort. If you accidentally fall into a pit, it will be even easier. Except for Yang Bao, any of the other 3 people who get off can kick the car back up. There is a stereo in the car, but unfortunately there are no songs. The stereo is basically for the car radio, and it can receive instructions at any time during the war. But there are no radios in this era. Chang Ning fiddled with it for a long time while driving, but no music came out, so he gave up in the end. Fortunately, the scenery here is not available in the south, so it doesn't seem dull along the way. Xiang Bao would occasionally tell a few stories about the cities upstream of the river, to liven up the atmosphere for everyone. Do you want to learn how to drive? After Xiang Bao told a joke, Chang Ning suddenly turned around and asked him. He immediately shook his head like a rattle. Don't think I don't know what you are up to. If I learn to drive, will I drive all the way in the future? Chang Ning snorted. Am I such a person? Xiang Bao nodded seriously. You are. Just like that, they drove upstream along the direction of the Yangding River. At dusk, a piece of land that was flatter than the grassland appeared in front of them. It was obviously built by humans before the end of the world. Chang Ning recalled that there seemed to be an airport in the south of Yanjing at this location. This airport was just built not long ago in the 21st century where Chang Ning lived. When it was first built, it was popular on the internet for a while because of the terminal building in the shape of a phoenix spreading its wings. If it is this airport, then it is also very close to Yanjing City. It is estimated that the straight line distance is only 40 to 50 kilometers, and the actual driving distance is 60 to 70 kilometers. According to the current speed of armored vehicles of about 20 to 30 kilometers per hour, it will take about 2 or 3 hours to get there. However, it is not easy to drive at night in places without roads and street lights. So Chang Ning planned to spend a night near the southern airport and set off for Yanjing City early tomorrow morning. After driving for more than 10 minutes towards the huge flat ground, Chang Ning saw the remains of an orange-gray building in the distance. The color of this terminal was also very beautiful back then, but it has become dull and gray after being abandoned for so many years after the world-destroying disaster. While driving, Chang Ning told Xiang Bao, Yang Bao, Yun Kai and Qian and others the story of the airport before. Everyone was used to Chang Ning's erudition and just listened attentively without any questions. Well, there were still some questions. As soon as Chang Ning finished speaking, Yun Kai and Qian raised her hand and asked, Brother Xiao, can airplanes really take people to the sky? Of course. Chang Ning nodded. Not only can it take people to the sky, but it can also drop some things from the sky. Wow. Then take me flying. But I can't fly. Wait. Fly? Chang Ning planned to go to Yanjing City in a high-profile manner and become a VIP there for subsequent actions. For this purpose, he refreshed an armored vehicle and asked Yun Kai and Qian and Yang Bao to pretend to be his maids and Xiang Bao to pretend to be his guards. Relying on the strength deterrence of the 4 people, the technological deterrence of the armored vehicle, and the implicit identity deterrence of Chang Ning's powerful forces, he won the attention of Yanjing City. But what if, just fly a plane over? Yes, Chang Ning can't fly a plane. However, no one can fly a plane at the beginning. Don't we all learn it? Chang Ning has an advantage that all those who learn to fly in the 21st century don't have, that is, he is not afraid of falling. It doesn't matter if the plane falls, just refresh it. People fall? Sorry, as long as we, the master level Shineman awakeners, don't fall from a height of several thousand meters, we can basically save our lives with a bedsheet. What's more, there must be something like a parachute on the plane. Now that the doomsday has passed for 300 years, I wonder if the planes at the southern airport are still okay. As long as they are not missing arms and legs, Chang Ning can make them shine like new. Thinking of this, he turned to Yun Kai and Qian and said, but if you really want to fly, let's learn to fly a plane. Great. Yun Kai and Qian jumped up. It was because the armored vehicle had enough space, otherwise even Ansav would probably be smashed through the roof by her. After a while, the armored vehicle stopped under the terminal. This terminal stretched out 5 long tentacles, and there were many boarding gates on each tentacle, but all of them were empty. Empty? Chang Ning frowned and wondered, in this doomsday, who can still drive the plane away? He slapped his head immediately. Airplanes are not usually parked at boarding gates. There are special hangars and aprons. This doomsday is not coming instantly. Even Xiao, the warehouse manager of Yunsheng, can arrange his work and wait for the doomsday. If the staff at this airport have a sense of responsibility, they will park the plane before leaving their jobs. So he started the armored vehicle again and circled around the terminal. There seemed to be an obvious building ruin in the northeast direction, and he drove there first. As he drove closer, he found that there was indeed a huge apron. In front of the apron was a long building that looked like the administrative building of an old world airport. There were also dozens of aircraft wreckages on the apron. But these planes were too big. Although the civil airliners before the end of the world could fly, they needed to repair a long section of the runway, and the fuel consumption was also amazing. So he didn't stop the car and continued to wander around the west. Finally, before dark, he found another apron, next to which was a row of dozens of huge hangars. The car drove into the ruins of the hangar. Chang Ning searched for a while and finally smiled. 2 small planes with a length of less than 30 meters were parked in a hangar in the middle. They might be the private cars of a wealthy man someday, but now it is perfect to use them as props for practicing flying. It would be even better if we could find the kind of planes that farmers use to spread pesticides. Chang Ning thought to himself, but it was a pity that this was a civil aviation airport, and it was basically impossible to find such a thing. After parking the car, Chang Ning got out with 3 people, stood in front of a small plane, and exerted his power of the Sea of Stars. Chapter 157. Why did the plane shake? Refreshing such an airplane is not a difficult task for Chang Ning. When he was in Yunsheng, any patrol boat that was refreshed by the Pujiang River was larger than this plane. But this plane cannot be driven away directly after being refreshed like a patrol boat. It is not a helicopter and needs a runway. So after Chang Ning refreshed the small plane, he took advantage of the night before he walked around the hangar and found the remains of a runway about 2 kilometers long. Refresh the runway. A little weak, but it is much better than the time at the Pujiang Bridge. This time it only consumed most of the star power and did not overdraw physical strength. It's dark now and we can't fly. Let's try again tomorrow to see if we can fly, he said to Young Kai and Kian. Young Kai and Kian nodded. Okay, brothers ironing. But, Chang Ning spoke again. But what? This plane also needs diesel. We can't just pour the oil out of the armored vehicle to feed it. Even if we pour it out, it won't be enough. So, we need to find the fuel depot at the airport. Fuel depot? Young Kai and Kian looked at Chang Ning in confusion. Well, the oil at the airport is usually not filled in barrels. If you want to refuel the plane, you have to refuel a lot at a time. So there must be a large fuel depot with a lot of diesel. So what? Young Kai and Kian instinctively felt that something was wrong. So if you want to take a plane to the sky tomorrow, you have to find the fuel depot tonight. What about you? I drove all day and refreshed the plane and the runway. I'm very tired. Okay. Chang Ning leaned against the armored vehicle, touching his chest and looking like he was dying. Young Kai and Kian sighed, then looked up at Xiang Bao. A huge question mark slowly appeared on Xiang Bao's forehead. Why? Why is it always me? He roared in a low voice, with tears in his eyes. Why are you talking so much nonsense? You go first. I'll look for it with you after I finish eating. Young Kai and Kian kicked Xiang Bao on the butt. It's not like I don't know that you eat all night. Xiang Bao cried. I'll be quick this time. You go quickly. I'll find you later. With that, Young Kai and Kian kicked Xiang Bao again, kicking him dozens of meters away. Xiang Bao stood up, cursed and walked away. While they were bickering, Yang Bao had already taken out 4 tents and down sleeping bags. We can only set up tents tonight, she said to Chang Ning while setting up the tent. Why? You can't get used to it. Chang Ning also came over and helped her set up the tent. I've never stayed here before, but I'm looking forward to it. Chang Ning approached Yun Xiansu and whispered in her ear. Actually, this tent is quite big, enough for 2 people to squeeze together. Moreover, we can spread out a little when setting up the tent, which will help us protect our personal privacy. Yang Bao spit at Chang Ning. What nonsense are you talking about? Young Kai and Kian took out a can from her backpack, unscrewed it, took out a piece of yellow peach, and stuffed it into her mouth. What are you two talking about secretly? Are you doing something bad behind my sister's back? Yang Bao blushed and distanced himself from Chang Ning. Go away. What do you know, little brat? Chang Ning waved her hand to drive away flies. However, Young Kai and Kian did not delve into it, but ate the can, while circling the plane, looking here and touching there. After a while, the tent was set up. Chang Ning took out the fresh water he carried with him to wash up, and then went into the tent. I'm so tired, I'll take a rest first. Yang Bao also washed up, and went into the tent farthest from Chang Ning, and zipped it up. Young Kai and Kian ate 2 cans of food. Seeing that both of them had gone to rest and no one paid attention to her, she pouted and hopped to find Xiang Bao. After she walked away, Chang Ning's tent moved a little. He stuck his head out and looked around to make sure that no one was there. Then he got out and walked to Yang Bao's tent. Actually, there are beds and showers in private planes. Yang Bao was not asleep either. Hearing this, he replied in the tent. Huh? Really? Chang Ning was very sure. I think so. Whether there are or not, we will know if we go and see it. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Bao got out of the tent with a red face. He was dressed neatly, and it seemed that he didn't really take off his clothes to sleep. Chang Ning stuck his head out to look outside the hangar again. It was pitch black outside, and he didn't know where Young Kai and Kian and Xiang Bao had gone. Let's go. After Yang Bao got out, he tidied his clothes. Chang Ning nodded and took her to the front of the refreshed plane. The door of the cabin was not locked, so they opened it directly and went in. This is indeed a private plane. After entering the cabin, there is a small door to the cockpit on the left and a small hole on the right. There are 4 very soft and wide leather seats in the hall, and a small table in front. To the right of the seats is a bar, which looks like a lot of alcohol has been placed on it. Further ahead is a small door. Chang Ning walked over and opened it. The inner room is indeed a bedroom. This bedroom is not big, only 6 or 7 square meters, and most of it is occupied by a large bed. There are also closets and bathrooms next to it, and there is indeed a shower in the bathroom. Yang Bao was shocked by the luxurious decoration inside. It looks better than the Yuncheng. The Yuncheng is just a hotel yacht, and this is a private plane. Chang Ning replied, while looking at the environment. If you can have a private plane before the end of the world, can't you decorate a small luxurious bedroom? Oh, there's no water. Yang Bao walked into the bathroom and turned on the faucet. The water tank hasn't been filled with water yet. Tomorrow we will drive an armored vehicle to nearby to fetch some water and add it, so we can take a shower. But tonight I guess this bathroom can only be used as a decoration. Oh. Yang Bao was a little disappointed. At this time, Chang Ning walked out of the small bedroom and returned to the door of the aircraft cabin. After looking around, he closed the cabin door and locked it from the inside. What are you doing? Yang Bao had a bad feeling. Don't lock the door when you sleep? Chang Ning asked back. Damn. What he said made sense, and Yang Bao clenched his fists. Don't come over. I sweated today and haven't taken a shower yet. It's okay, I wiped it. But I haven't. You don't stink. Why are you so annoying? In the dark hangar, a brand new small plane was parked quietly inside, but for some reason, the plane was shaking slightly. An hour later. Chang Ning, I found it. Xiang Bao's voice came from outside the hangar. Huh? Where are the people? Xiang Bao walked into the hangar and found that it was quiet inside, and there was no sound of anyone breathing in the tent. What's wrong with this plane? Xiang Bao scratched his head, looking at the gently shaking plane, a little confused. I didn't feel the earthquake either. Chang Ning. He shouted again in the hangar, and the dilapidated hangar echoed. Huh? Why is the plane not shaking again? Xiang Bao was even more confused. Chapter 158 Test Flight. Ahem, I'm here. 10 minutes later, Chang Ning opened the door of the plane and shouted to Xiang Bao while standing on the gangway. Why did you get in there? Where's Yang Bao? Xiang Bao looked at Chang Ning suspiciously. Huh? I don't know. Maybe she felt bored and went out for a walk. Didn't you find the oil depot? Let's go and take a look. Chang Ning closed the door, walked down the gangway quickly, put his arm around Xiang Bao's shoulders and walked out. Although Xiang Bao looked puzzled, he was not as strong as Chang Ning, so he had to be dragged out of the hangar by him. Be gentle. This time it was Chang Ning's turn to look puzzled. It seemed that he had just heard this sentence. Today was a sunny day. Although it was late at night, the stars were shining outside the hangar, and the crescent moon was hanging obliquely in the sky, so the view was not bad. After leaving the hangar, Xiang Bao took Chang Ning to the south. Where's Yun Qian? Why didn't she come back with you? Chang Ning asked Xiang Bao. Huh? I don't know. Maybe she went for a walk by herself like Yang Bao. Xiang Bao answered casually. Chang Ning was speechless. Not long after, the two came to a building ruined to the southwest of the hangar. It used to be a low-rise building, but now the top has almost collapsed, revealing 4 huge cylindrical tanks inside. It should be this? Xiang Bao pointed inside. Chang Ning nodded. He now hoped that these huge oil storage tanks could suppress volatilization in a similar way to the small oil tanks in the Emergency Relief Material Center in Yancheng. In this way, there should still be some oil left after 300 years. After searching in the ruins for a long time, he finally found a device similar to a fire hydrant outlet on a wall. Chang Ning went forward to unscrew it. Because it had not been maintained for too long, the unscrewing process was not very smooth, and Chang Ning did not dare to use too much force for fear of breaking it directly. He slowly turned it for nearly 3 minutes before unscrewing the outlet. A strange buzzing sound similar to the sound of wind came from inside, and after a while, some yellow-black translucent liquid slowly flowed out of the water outlet. Chang Ning quickly closed it again. It's okay, there is still some oil in it. Let's add oil tomorrow and try to see if the plane can fly. Xiang Bao was also very happy. Although he didn't clamor to take a plane like Yun Qian, being able to fly up to the sky and take a look is a temptation for everyone. So he is also looking forward to tomorrow's test flight. At this time, a huge roar came from the wilderness outside. It was the sound of a beast. But this beast roar seemed to carry some fear, grievance, and prayer. Chang Ning and Xiang Bao jumped up together, found a place on the top of the oil depot ruins that had not collapsed, and stood on it. Then they looked towards the place where the beast roared. In the night, a huge cat was about 1 kilometer west of them. There seemed to be a small figure sitting on the cat. The two of them hurriedly ran over there again, and soon they approached the beast. It was a huge lion, bigger than the lions Chang Ning had seen before the end of the world. Its body lines were smooth, and its neck was surrounded by a thick mane, which made it full of explosive power. On the lion's back was Yang Kai and Qian, brothers ironing. Little Xiang, look what I found. Yang Kai and Qian saw Chang Ning and Xiang Bao and greeted them excitedly. Chang Ning put his hand on his forehead and turned to Xiang Bao. Is this the walk you mentioned? Xiang Bao murmured. How would I know what she did? She never came to see me. The lion seemed exhausted and was still trying to throw Yang Kai and Qian off its back, but no matter how hard it tried, she sat firmly on the lion's back. This is a protected animal, you can't abuse it. Chang Ning finally couldn't bear it anymore and said to Yang Kai and Qian, I didn't abuse it, I just wanted to ride it like a horse. You see, it's about the same size as a horse, and it looks easy to ride at first glance. Yang Kai and Qian grinned and answered, okay, this is a lion, there's no way to ride it, get off. Chang Ning advised her. Yang Kai and Qian tilted her head and thought for a while, and finally gave up, and jumped off the lion's back. The lion looked at Yang Kai and Qian and Chang Ning in fear, as if it had been pardoned, and ran to the west without looking back. Looking at the back of the lion, Chang Ning couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Why is there a lion in Yanjing? If the ecology improves after the apocalypse and the number of wild beasts increases, the king of wild beasts in North China should be the tiger. In the 21st century, wild lions only live in Africa. I heard that in ancient times, there were also lions in India. But I have never heard of wild lions in North China. But this is not important. With the current strength of Chang Ning's 4-member team, let alone a larger lion, even if it mutates into a vicious beast, they will not be afraid of it. Suppressing the doubts, Chang Ning called Yang Kai and Qian and Xiang Bao back to the hangar together. After so much trouble, it's time to take a break. When he was about to reach the hangar, Chang Ning saw from a distance that there was a figure in a white hanfu dress, with long hair fluttering, and a slender figure slowly wandering there. He turned to Xiang Bao and said, look, I said Yang Bao went for a walk, didn't I lie to you? Although Xiang Bao felt something was wrong, he nodded. After the four of them reunited, Yang Bao took Yang Kai and Qian to sleep in the big bed in the plane, while Chang Ning and Xiang Bao were outside, each in a tent, and fell asleep. For awakeners of their level, there is no need to have a sentry when resting in the wild. If it is someone who is not as strong as them, they can detect it from a distance. If someone is much stronger than them and can hide his breath in front of them, then setting up a sentry in advance may not be of any use. In short, it was a peaceful night. The next morning, several people got up, washed, and had breakfast. Xiang Bao was kicked out by Chang Ning and asked to move some special fuel for the aircraft from the oil depot. He and Yang Kai and Qian stood behind the landing gear of the plane and pushed the plane to the runway outside with their hands. After a while, Xiang Bao came over with a large iron bucket, about 200 or 300 liters of fuel. After pouring it into the airplane mailbox, Chang Ning thought about it and felt that it was not enough, so he asked Xiang Bao to run 2 more times. A total of 700 to 800 liters of oil were added to the mailbox, and everyone got on the plane together. In fact, this amount of oil can only be used for a short flight. However, this time it is a test flight for learning purposes, and it is estimated that it is enough for the time being. After entering the plane, Chang Ning first took out 4 parachutes from the luggage compartment on the upper side and told the 3 people how to use them. The method is very simple. After explaining it once, the 3 awakened people all said they remembered it. Then he opened the door of the cockpit and got in with Xiang Bao. In the 21st century, Chang Ning played some flight simulation games and carefully studied a video on a small broken station. He remembered that the title of the video was about, if you steal an F-16 in Taiwan, how should you drive it back to the country? The video disassembled every action of the fighter jet taking off in detail. In the simulation game, there are also many different types of aircraft driving methods. Sitting in the driver's seat, Chang Ning looked at the pile of dashboards and levers in front of him and felt that he should be able to do it. Chapter 159 Yanjing City. Facts have proved that civil aviation aircraft are indeed easier to drive than fighter jets, especially this kind of small private aircraft. Chang Ning remembered that he had watched the fighter jet to Kiev video at that time. The various steps took more than 10 minutes and involved dozens of different buttons. And the complexity of this civil aviation aircraft is only slightly higher than that of manual transmission car. Of course, it is also possible that the technology of the 24th century has simplified the difficulty of flying. Although the technological level of mankind has not increased much during the Great Divide, it is still possible to make some humanized improvements on some commonly used machinery. Chang Ning started the plane without much effort. Then, the plane began to taxi and accelerate on the runway, and the instrument panel also displayed the current taxiing speed and the recommended takeoff speed in a very humanized way. The current speed slowly increased and reached the recommended takeoff value. Chang Ning pulled the joystick next to him suddenly, and the plane flew up diagonally. It's really good. Xiao Bao stretched his neck to look out the window and found that he was getting farther and farther away from the ground. The acceleration of gravity made him a little uncomfortable. He twisted his buttocks in his seat and fidgeted. Wow. It really flew. It flew. The voices of Yun Kai and Qian and Yang Bao came from the cabin. It sounds very excited. Did he forget to tell them to fasten their seat belts? Chang Ning shook his head, but they didn't seem to need it. He controlled the plane to continue climbing and soon reached an altitude of 2,000 or 3,000 meters. Looking down from here, the original airport terminal, office buildings, etc. have become very small. Chang Ning didn't expect that he would succeed in one go, and he was in a good mood. He whistled and looked down. That is, in the northwest direction, there is a densely packed building. Although 300 years have passed, the city here does not seem to be deeply eroded by nature. It is probably due to the difference between the grassland terrain environment and the forest terrain environment. In that building, Chang Ning saw the familiar rectangular outline from a distance. The former Forbidden City was still well repaired before the destruction of the world in the 24th century. 300 years have passed. I don't know what it feels like to get closer, but looking down from a high altitude, it is still a very complete palace structure. He adjusted the direction of the plane and drove towards Yanjing City. It takes 3 or 4 hours to walk on the ground, but it only takes a few minutes in the air. Is this Yanjing? Xiao Bao asked as he looked around. Chang Ning nodded. This is it. I don't know where the research institute is. They were flying very high now, and they could hardly see the specific things below. He adjusted the joystick again, and the plane circled diagonally northward out of the scope of Yanjing City, making a big circle in the distance, constantly lowering the altitude in the process, and circled back again. At the same time, Yanjing City, Bao Fang Hu Tang. Drive Jiang. Dr. Jiang. The door of Jiang Bin's laboratory was knocked violently. He sighed, put down the flask in his hand, took off the sticky plastic gloves, then picked up a pistol on the table next to him, walked to the door of the laboratory, stepped on the side, and opened the airtight door. While opening the door, he opened the safety of the pistol. Don't you know that I hate others to disturb me when I'm doing research? Jiang Bin put the pistol against the guard's forehead. The guard was so scared that his face was covered in cold sweat. He swallowed his saliva and said tremblingly, "But it was Commander ZHU who called me to call you." Jiang Bin put down his pistol and put it in his belt. "What did the commander want me to do?" "The commander called and asked you to look at the sky." "The sky? What's wrong with the sky? Is there another Saker Falcon?" Jiang Bin cursed and walked out of the laboratory gate, stood in the yard, and looked up. This is. Jiang Bin had never seen this thing in the sky, but he quickly recognized that it should be an airplane. He grabbed the collar of the guard next to him. "Where did this thing in the sky come from?" The guard trembled and said, "From the east. It should be the direction of Jinghe City or the zoo." "East?" Jiang Bin repeated suspiciously. Then his face changed, and he slapped the guard on the head. "Impossible. How could it fly from the east? Maybe I saw it wrong." The guard covered his face and said aggrievedly, "Idiot." Jiang Bin cursed, then turned around and looked around, and found a ladder in the corner of the yard. He walked over quickly and climbed up awkwardly. After climbing up step by step, Jiang Bin stood on the roof with a wide view and looked at the plane. The plane flew over his head, turned a circle in the north, and flew back. During the flight, it was getting lower and lower, and Jiang Bin could even see the landing gear of the plane that had not been retracted. What's going on? He said to himself. Is that day coming early? This won't do. I'm not ready yet. The plane made a huge and low rumble, flew over his head again, and went to the southeast. Jiang Bin watched the plane fly far away, and then shouted to the people below, chase it. Send the Tiwi. Chase. Send them all out. Chase in that direction. We must find the person who flew the plane. The guards in the yard didn't dare to complain about how the Tiwi could catch up with the plane, so they immediately nodded and ran out. Jiang Bin clumsily climbed down the ladder and entered the west wing in the yard, which was his daily office. He picked up the old-fashioned telephone on the table and shook it a few times. Hello. Connect me to Xiangshan. After a few seconds, he stood at attention again. Hello, Chief. Yes, I saw the plane in the sky. Yes, I understand. We have sent people to chase it, but there is little hope of catching up. I suspect it is not from Bingcheng. The guard said it came from the southwest. Okay, I will call back all the shepherds in that direction to ask. Although he was on the phone, Jiang Bin stood straight throughout the process with his head down, as if a very majestic chief was really standing in front of him. After a long time, he hung up the phone, let out a long breath, and stared blankly at the southwest sky. In the sky over there, Chang Ning's plane had already flown over the southern airport. Looking at the straight runway below, Chang Ning couldn't help but think of a question. How should this thing land? When taking off, it seemed that everything was very simple. But when landing, Chang Ning felt the difficulty. The runway below looked like a thin line from a high altitude. How can I control the plane to align with the runway? Also, if I want to land at one end of the runway, how can I control the landing speed of the plane? If I land in the middle or tail of the runway, the plane will not have enough buffer distance and will definitely not be able to stop. If I accidentally land outside when landing, the consequences are not to mention. After circling around, watching the fuel level gradually turn red, Chang Ning decided to give it a try. Carefully control the plane to align with the runway and land slowly. This time when the plane arrived above the runway, it was still 300 or 400 meters from the ground. Don't worry. Chang Ning took a deep breath, turned around again, and aimed at the runway again, and landed slowly. This time, before it reached the runway, it was about to land. Chang Ning quickly pulled the joystick to let the plane fly a little higher. Is it okay? Xiang Bao was watching from the side with fear. If they crashed at this height, Chang Ning and Yang Qian might survive, but he and Yang Bao would definitely be turned into slag. Chang Ning glanced at him, said nothing, and circled back to the front of the runway again. Chapter 160 Parachuting. Land, my little plane. Chang Ning concentrated on aiming at the runway, adjusting the angle and altitude. But being a pilot is actually a technical job, and it requires a lot of experience. Taking off was fine, but landing was a bit difficult for Chang Ning, a complete newcomer. They flew over the mound below, and this time they didn't even touch the runway. Chang Ning looked at the fuel gauge at the bottom, curled his lips, pulled the plane to an altitude of more than 1,000 meters, and then stood up. Xiang Bao was startled. What are you doing? Sit down and fly the plane. No fuel, I can't do it. Chang Ning was very calm. Huh? Xiang Bao looked confused. Chang Ning patted his parachute. Take this, let's go. When they came to the rear cabin, Yang Bao and Yang Qian were still looking at the scenery below, and they were also surprised to see Chang Ning and the others come out. Is this the autonomous driving technology? Yang Qian asked Chang Ning with wide eyes, not knowing where she heard the term from. Chang Ning shook his head. Ladies, there is good news and bad news. The bad news is that the plane is out of fuel and can no longer support us to land. As soon as he finished speaking, the plane shook a little, and it could be felt in the cabin that the engine had stopped. The good news is that each of us has a parachute. Chang Ning continued. Now, let's go. As he spoke, he opened the cabin door, and a huge wind blew in. Yang Bao's long hair fluttered in a mess, and Xiang Bao's fat face became uneven. Are you really going to jump? Yang Bao grabbed Chang Ning with a terrified look on his face. Chang Ning had told her the essentials of parachuting before, but that was just to hear. Now that she really had to jump down from a height of more than 1,000 meters, she was still very nervous. Jump now? Young Qian's eyes lit up. Chang Ning nodded. Jump now. Ouch. Young Qian screamed and jumped out of the cabin door first. As soon as her feet left the plane, Chang Ning grabbed the cabin door with one hand and pulled her back with the other hand. Please put on your parachute before jumping. Chang Ning pointed to the parachute on Young Qian's seat. Oh. Young Qian nodded, picked up the parachute, and jumped out again with a roar. Chang Ning turned his eyes to Xiang Bao again. Xiang Bao swallowed his saliva. Chang Ning, I have a son in Jiangcheng, named Xiang Hu. If I'm gone, remember to take care of him. Chang Ning kicked him on the butt and kicked him down. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Then he turned to look at Yang Bao. Yang Bao burst into tears. Chang Ning sighed, sorted out his parachute, then hugged Yun Xian's waist, and took her to jump out of the cabin door. The plane behind him was shaking, doing Brownian motion, and went northwest. It was unknown where it would crash. When Chang Ning was in Yuncheng, he had rich experience in falling from high places. Before he awakened the ability of Xianmen, he used a high-altitude rappelling rope to come down from the upper floors of Yuncheng buildings several times. Later, she fell directly from Li Ling's room floor by floor without protection, and only used her arms to put on the bulge of the window to slow down. Therefore, when she jumped out of the cabin, she was not so nervous. Yang Bao next to her hugged Chang Ning tightly, closed his eyes, and screamed. At an altitude of more than 1,000 meters, it was impossible to do high altitude gliding or something, so she could only open the parachute as soon as possible after jumping out of the cabin. If the parachute has not opened at an altitude of 200 to 300 meters, it would basically be too late. So after looking back at the plane going away, Chang Ning pressed the opening button of the parachute. Bang! A huge resistance appeared, pulling Chang Ning and Yang Bao in Chang Ning's arms. Okay, it's okay, we'll land in a while. Chang Ning comforted her. Yang Bao stopped screaming. She opened her eyes and looked down, and she screamed again, and closed her eyes in fear. Chang Ning shook his head and looked down himself. Young Qian, who jumped first, had already drifted away and was about to land about 2 kilometers away from him. Xiang Bao followed behind Young Qian, and it was estimated that the landing position was similar to hers. Maybe the wind direction changed at this time, but Chang Ning and Yang Bao's parachutes did not float in their direction, but slowly landed in the opposite direction. However, the buildings of the airport in the distance were still very obvious, so they would just meet there later. Chang Ning was not in a hurry and observed the ground. This is the west side of the airport, with hills and forests as the main terrain. If it floats to a tree later, I will have to cut the parachute rope. Chang Ning thought of this and touched his waist. Skywalker 1 was still there. Ah. His action caused Yang Bao to scream again. Chang Ning shook his head. There were still 200 or 300 meters to land, and Young Qian and Xiang Bao were gone. However, there seemed to be a huge gate ruins in the direction where the parachute floated. I don't know if it is the gate of some building in the old world. 1 minute later. Ah. With Yang Bao's last scream, the two landed safely. We are here. Stop screaming. Chang Ning comforted her again. Yang Bao squinted his eyes, opened them a little, and saw that they had indeed reached the ground. He blushed and let go of Chang Ning's hand, and straightened his clothes. Chang Ning, who was finally freed, looked around, and then walked to the front of the gate ruins. The nameplate on it could still be vaguely recognized, Yanjing Wildlife Park. Chang Ning suddenly realized what was going on with the lion that Young Qian caught last night. If no one cares after the apocalypse and the connection between the various regions is opened again, this wildlife park will indeed be a paradise for lions and other beasts. It is estimated that there are many zebras, giraffes and so on in the old world, but it is a pity that there is a high probability that they will not be seen. Let's go to the airport to meet them. Chang Ning patted Yang Bao's shoulder. Yang Bao also recovered at this time and regained the calmness of a master level awakener. She straightened her clothes again and took a deep breath. Let's go. The two people who had just fallen from 1,000 meters high walked shoulder to shoulder towards the airport in the east, but the excitement brought by skydiving temporarily reduced the function of their senses. They didn't notice that in the ruins of a building deep in the zoo behind them, a man holding a telescope was staring at them. After confirming that the two had gone far away, the man turned back and walked quickly to a half-collapsed building farther away. There was a relatively intact room here, in which a man and a lion were leaning lazily against the wall. The man with the telescope said to the man sitting diagonally inside, "Wei Hong, go to the city to find the Tiwi station and report that two unidentified people fell from the sky, one man and one woman, wearing ludi clothes, suspected to be high-level awakeners." Wei Hong stood up lazily. "Okay, got it, Amin." Then he raised his foot and walked out of the dangerous building. The frequency of his feet moving was very slow, but the whole person flew away. After he left, 2 words could still be heard in the wind. "So annoying." Seeing Wei Hong leave, a Ming touched the head of the lion in the room again. The lion roared in grievance. A Ming smiled and said, "So that person is in the same group with the person who bullied you last night." Chapter 161 West Mountain. Yanjing City, Zishan, underground bunker project. In the deepest part of the bunker, in a bedroom more than 200 meters from the ground, a young man in a Zhongshan suit, lean, with a crew cut and pale skin, was lying on the bed with his legs crossed, holding a red apple in his hand, tossing it up and down, looking at the ceiling, looking worried. The cooperation with Bingcheng has not been negotiated yet, and the holy city has been tough again. This won't work. He took a big bite of the apple, frowned, and seemed very distressed. At this moment, boom. A dull loud noise came from the surface, creating a rumbling echo in each room of the underground bunker. In the room where the young man was, dust fell from the roof. He sat up suddenly, looked at the dusty apple in his hand, and threw it aside. Then he stood up, buttoned up his Zhongshan suit, tidied his clothes, opened the bedroom door and walked out. 2 guards stood at the door, each holding an assault rifle, looking straight ahead, as if they were not aware of the earth-shaking sound just now. But they moved as soon as the young man opened the door. "Hello, Chief." The guards stood at attention and saluted. The young chief nodded. "Go and ask what happened." The guard on the left responded loudly, "Yes, Chief." The voice triggered waves of echoes in the narrow underground bunker. The young man frowned and watched the guard leave. Before the guard walked out of the corridor, another person came in from outside. This person was also wearing a Zhongshan suit. He was a middle-aged bald man, short but sturdy, and walked hurriedly. "Chief." He looked up and saw the young chief standing at the door of the bedroom. He immediately stopped and saluted. The young leader nodded. "What's going on outside?" The man replied, "A plane crashed in the West Mountain, not far from our headquarters." "Plane? Is it the same one just now?" "We are investigating. I will report back when there is a result. In addition, there is one more thing." "Tell me." "The action team in the south has sent news that the arrest operation was successful and the suspect has been personally escorted to Beijing by the newly appointed station chief of Hucheng Station. Judging from the distance, it is estimated that they will arrive within 3 to 5 days." "The new station chief of Hucheng Station? Is he the lucky guy?" "Yes, Chief. This person's surname is Yun. The specific information has been reported last time." The young leader nodded. He seemed relieved to hear the good news. He waved his hand and said, "I know." He immediately saluted again and backed away to leave. "Wait." The young leader suddenly called him again. "Come with me to see the plane." They have never been able to fly a plane to Yanjing City before. This time they actually came here by plane. Haha. The man's forehead was sweating. "It was my subordinate's mistake. I will send a few more teams of Tiwi to investigate in the northwest to prevent the enemy from continuing to infiltrate." The young leader sneered and walked out first without saying a word. At the same time, in the southern suburbs of Yanjing City, the former southern airport, brothers Ironing, Yang Kai Kian and Xiao Bao stood at the door of the hangar where Chang Ning and his friends stayed last night. Seeing Chang Ning and Yang Bao coming back from a distance, she waved excitedly. Chang Ning and Yang Bao also waved to Yang Kai Kian and Xiao Bao. After a while, they walked to the door of the hangar and the 4-man team reunited after parachuting. "Where did the plane go?" Young Kai and Kian asked, as soon as they met. Chang Ning shrugged. How should I know? It's just one flight. I haven't flown enough. I want to jump again. Let's look for a plane. Okay. Yang Bao and Xiang Bao turned pale when they heard this. Chang Ning flicked a coin on Young Kai and Kian's forehead. Stupid, isn't there another one inside? There are 2 private planes in this hangar. They drove away one before, and now there is still one left inside. This one is a little bigger than the previous one, but it is still smaller than an ordinary civil airliner. Oh, right. Young Kai and Kian scratched her head. Then let's drive that one. Chang Ning said unhappily. Will you drive it? The previous landing failure left a heavy shadow in Chang Ning's heart, although he thought in his heart that, as long as he was given enough practice, he could still land the plane normally. But he didn't want to drive it again for a while. When he flew the plane before, on the one hand, he was considering going to Yanjing City to show off and shock the giant research institute in Yanjing City. On the other hand, he just wanted to fly a plane for fun. After all, not everyone can fly a plane in the 21st century. But now, after flying over, Chang Ning suddenly thought that, even if they flew the plane over Yanjing City, the people below would not know who was flying the plane. This kind of passenger plane is not like a helicopter, which can land directly in Yanjing City. And the poor landing experience made Chang Ning not want to fly again in the short term. What's worse is that the plane that had no fuel and lacked power to fall freely just now seemed to be heading towards the direction of Yanjing City. If it really crashed in Yanjing City and caused casualties and property losses, their 4-person team would not be able to communicate with the forces in Yanjing City in a friendly manner and find out the news about X substance and the whereabouts of Li Ling. So Chang Ning continued very straightforwardly. If you want to drive, you can drive it yourself. Anyway, I can't drive. Later, we will follow the original plan and drive the armored vehicle into the city. Young Kai and Kian pouted. I can't drive. Chang Ning rolled his eyes. That's it. Also, if we enter the city later, no one should mention that we drove the plane just now. If someone asks, don't admit it. After seeing the 3 people nodded, Chang Ning walked to the armored vehicle first. Okay, we have taken the plane. Let's go now. Several people got on the car one after another and sat down according to yesterday's seats. Chang Ning turned to Xiang Bao and said, really, don't you want to try driving it? It's fun. Xiang Bao shook his head like a rattle. Chang Ning sighed and started the armored vehicle. Continuing upstream along the Yangding River, this section of the river first goes west and then north, and the armored vehicle drove to the vicinity of Yanjing Wildlife Park again. Seeing the gate of the zoo from afar, Young Kai and Kian's heart moved. I wonder if the lion that played with me last night is okay. Let's go see it. Chang Ning shook his head. Don't harm others. Young Kai and Kian refused. Go ahead, she shouted while twisting her body, causing the entire armored vehicle to fall all over. Chang Ning couldn't persuade her and sighed. We still have to go into Yanjing City, and there is no time for you to play with the lion. I will drive through it and look for its traces. You just need to take a look from a distance, okay? Young Kai and Kian pouted. Okay. She really liked the lion that looked like a big cat. Chang Ning didn't let her go down to play, but it was good to take a look from a distance. Chang Ning turned the steering wheel to the right, and the armored vehicle turned and drove towards the gate of the zoo. Cut. In the zoo, the lion sneezed violently. Ming, who was touching the lion's head next to him, asked with concern, do you have a cold? Chapter 162 Running Rhubarb. Maybe it has already left this area. After all, you did such atrocities to others last night. It's normal for it to run away. Chang Ning turned around and said to Young Kai and Kian, who was pouting. They drove in from the zoo gate and walked around the gate for a while. Not to mention lions, they didn't even see a rabbit. Chang Ning followed the broken road sign to the wild animal area. It was still desolate here. The largest animal was probably a grasshopper lying on the grass. Look for it again, Young Kai and Kian muttered. Chang Ning shook his head, turned and continued to drive north. There is only a ruin of a building in front. It looks like an office building of the old world zoo. How could a lion be in an office building? The armored vehicle made a rumbling sound and drove towards the ruins 2 kilometers away. The lion, who was resting in the half-collapsed room of the office building, suddenly pricked up his ears and growled anxiously. What's wrong? Amin, who was resting against the wall, also opened his eyes. Roar, another low roar. Arming sat up quickly. Are they looking for us? What a trouble. Then he walked out of the room with the lion, looked to the south, and widened his eyes. What the hell is this? Arming didn't know what an armored vehicle was, but it didn't stop him from knowing that this armored vehicle was a dangerous thing. He made a quick decision and ran north. The lion was faster than him, and the moment it saw the armored vehicle, it started running in the opposite direction. There are people over there. Yang Bao, who had settled down, regained his keen perception. Although he was in a shaking armored vehicle and his ears were full of noise, he still keenly caught the signs of a man and a lion running away in front of the office building. Chang Ning didn't expect there to be someone here. He and Yang Bao just passed by here. Let's go and have a look. He began to speed up, and the speed of more than 10 or 20 kilometers per hour instantly soared to more than 40 or nearly 50 kilometers per hour. This is the speed limit of the armored vehicle on this kind of terrain without roads. The speed of the lion in front is obviously faster than the armored vehicle after acceleration. Although I don't know how long it can last, it can still be thrown away for a distance in a short time. But Arming doesn't have such a fast speed. Judging from his movements and body shape, it is basically impossible that he is an awakener of Shenman. His speed is less than half of that of the armored vehicle. At this rate, he will be caught up by the armored vehicle in a short time. After running for a while, Amin was already out of breath. He looked back and saw that the armored vehicle was speeding straight towards him. He knew that he had been exposed. After observing the surroundings, he found that there was a small hill on the left with lush trees. The armored vehicle should not be able to climb up. He gritted his teeth, changed direction, and ran towards the small hill. He thought that, as long as he got into the woods before the armored vehicle arrived, he would have a chance to escape. But what he didn't expect was that as soon as he changed direction, Yun Kai and Kian on the armored vehicle saw it. Yun Kai and Kian opened the door directly and jumped out of the car that was traveling at nearly 50 per hour. Turning in a circle on the spot to offset the inertia, Yun Kai and Kian raised her foot and accelerated towards Amin. 10 seconds later, Yun Kai and Kian said to Arming, who was lying on the ground, "Why are you running?" Arming looked terrified. "The thing you are riding in is too scary. Can't I run?" The armored vehicle also stopped not far away, and Chang Ning and the other two turned off the engine and got out of the car. Chang Ning looked at Arming on the ground. "Are you from the research institute?" Arming nodded and shook his head. "Are you really like that? What does it mean by nodding and shaking your head?" The bear leopard next to him took a step closer, and the huge body pressed Arming on the ground more nervous. "Are you from Bengcheng?" Arming licked his lips, and instead of answering the question, he asked a question. Chang Ning frowned, walked up to Arming, and searched in his pocket. Sure enough, he found an identity card, which was exactly the same as the card of the madman and his friends who met outside Jinghe City before. He and Yang Bao looked at each other. The people from this research institute stayed near the place where the two parachuted to the ground. I don't know if they saw them parachuting just now. If they did, it would be possible to infer that the crashed plane was driven by them. And if the plane really brings any damage to Yanjing City, then Chang Ning and the others will have to take the blame. If you don't want to take the blame, the best ways. A trace of murderous intent flashed across Chang Ning's eyes. However, although he felt that all the people in the institute should be bad, he didn't know whether the person in front of him had done anything evil. Killing a bad guy is not a psychological burden for Chang Ning, but if he kills a good person by mistake, he will definitely feel uneasy. In the doomsday, there should not be such a mentality, but Chang Ning, who came from the 21st century, can't get rid of this concept. Amin on the ground caught Chang Ning's eyes, and he quickly said, "I'm a member of the institute on the surface, but I actually have another identity." "Another identity?" Chang Ning was puzzled. "I'm the leader of the internal resistance army of the institute." "Resistance army? How many people are there in the institute?" There are only 2 of us at the moment, just me and the deputy leader." 2 black lines suddenly appeared on Chang Ning's forehead. "Just the 2 of you? Are you playing house?" Xiao Bao also stepped forward and grabbed Arming's collar. "Be honest and tell the truth." Arming had a bitter face. He could see that the people opposite him were not on good terms with the institute. If he faced these people as an employee of the institute, he would most likely be killed. So he thought of his other identity, the leader of the resistance army of the institute. This identity is actually true, but there are indeed only 2 people in the resistance army of the institute, just him and Wei Han. Our resistance army is just beginning, and those cave monsters are so powerful, so we must be careful to develop members. Ming looked at Xiang Bao and then at Chang Ning, trying to see something in their eyes. AWW. At this time, the lion came back again and returned to the hill. However, the look in its eyes, when it looked at Yunkai and Qian, was still full of fear, and it only dared to roar in the distance, as if it wanted to save Ming, but didn't dare to come over. Dahuang, why are you back again? Ming said to the lion anxiously, go find Wei Han. Before he finished speaking, Yunkai and Qian came to the lion. Dahuang like lightning, stretched out her hand to grab Dahuang's mane, and said affectionately, brother's ironing. Found it. Dahuang did not dare to move, held his breath, and looked at Yunkai and Qian with a pleading face. Although I don't know who you are, I'm really the leader of the resistance army of the institute. My deputy leader's name is Wei Han. Our program is to drive away the cave dogs and restore Yanjing City. Cavemen. Chang Ning noticed that Ming mentioned cavemen twice. You mean, everyone in the institute is a caveman? He thought of a group of cavemen underground in Shanghai City, who built an underground city called Huayu City. However, they rarely interact with the ground, and there are many misunderstandings between the 2 sides. Could it be that the cavemen in Yanjing have come to the ground and started to rule the ground? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Past Events at the Research Institute, Part 1. You are not from Bingcheng. Amin was a little surprised. Bingcheng and Yanjing City have a lot of exchanges, have had many conflicts, and are preparing to cooperate recently. The 2 sides can be said to know each other very well. If they are from Bingcheng, they must know the details of the institute. Seeing that Chang Ning and the others had no idea about the details of the institute's cave-dwelling origin, Amin knew that they were not from Bingcheng. Why do you think we are from Bingcheng? Chang Ning asked in confusion. Amin glanced at the armored vehicle parked in the distance, and his eyes meant that Bingcheng had similar things. Chang Ning nodded. When he got here, he was not in a hurry to go to Yanjing City. He happened to meet a person who claimed to be a rebel of the Yanjing City Institute. It would be better to ask some basic intelligence first before making plans. He stepped forward to pull Amin up, and then turned back to Yunkai and Qian and said, don't abuse Dahuang. Yunkai and Qian rubbed the lion's head. How did I abuse him? Don't slander me. Chang Ning no longer cared about her, but pulled Amin to sit next to her, and began to inquire about the research institute. Under the threat of several people's strength, Amin did not dare to tell a lie. Chang Ning asked one question, and he answered one. After a while, Chang Ning figured out most of the origin of the institute. It turned out that when the doomsday disaster occurred, many teams that firmly believed that the doomsday would come and had been preparing for this day quickly moved underground. This is the origin of the original cave dwellers in major cities. Most cave dwellers, like Huayu City, have basically not adapted to life on the ground after 300 years of development and have lost most of the original scientific and technological heritage. But the institute is different. In the 20th century, in order to cope with the possible world-class nuclear war at that time, many civil air defense fortifications were built around Yanjing. The most important and safest of them is deep underground in the West Mountain of Yanjing. After the end of the Cold War, most of these fortifications were gradually abandoned, but the huge civil air defense fortification under the West Mountain was developed for new purposes in the 24th century. Because it is located deep in the ground, the cosmic ray flux and radioactive parameters are extremely low, and the transportation is convenient and very close to the metropolis. It has been developed into an underground research institute specializing in the study of neutrinos and dark matter and other related fields. On the eve of the doomsday disaster, this institute had more than 500 scientists commuting to work every day, and nearly 200 scientists were stationed here directly. Therefore, when the doomsday disaster occurred, more than half of the people in the institute were basically not affected by the gamma ray burst. After the doomsday disaster, they naturally would not be stupid enough to go to the surface and receive a gamma ray baptism. However, in addition to the complete equipment and materials for scientific research, the institute did not have much reserves of daily necessities. Moreover, the population structure of the institute was aging, and the ratio of men to women was also unbalanced. Therefore, although most scientists were not physically impaired, their lives were still tight and inconvenient. Before long, the daily necessities underground were about to be consumed, and they had to send a team to the ground to search for supplies. Only then did they discover that this doomsday disaster was not as the scientists had initially speculated. The disaster did not completely destroy the Earth, and many creatures on the Earth still survived tenaciously, including some human children. The team searching for supplies also brought back all the human children they could find to the institute, nurturing them to grow and teaching them knowledge. There were only dozens of these children in total. After the disappearance of human society as a whole, the institute could no longer continue to study the topics before the end of the world. The goal of the scientists who survived was very clear, which was to teach these dozens of children the basic scientific methods and scientific concepts of mankind. They might be the last hope of mankind. The surface environment was still harsh, and many of the teams sent to search died in the residual energy of the gamma ray burst. After searching for enough supplies and equipment to make subsequent living supplies to ensure that they could be supplied to the institute for a long time, the people in the institute completely closed the door and began to live underground. But at this time, there were already some other surviving children on the ground in Yanjing City, and they began to establish a new order on the ground. In this way, the institute was closed for decades. The children who were brought into the institute that year, as well as the children born by the scientists during the closure, have been living underground. They have learned basic scientific methods and scientific concepts. Some are proficient in mathematics, some are proficient in chemistry, and some are quite good at studying the awakening mutations that occurred in humans after this doomsday disaster. When the last old scientist died, these former children opened the door of the institute again and came to the ground. At this time, the new Yanjing city on the ground had already grown to a considerable size. The thousands of survivors used the forbidden city of the old world as their base and struggled to survive in the doomsday. The people of the Zishan Institute quickly connected with the people on the ground. At the beginning, both sides had their own needs. The people on the ground had food and other living supplies that the institute urgently needed, and the people in the institute had scientific knowledge that the people on the ground did not have, which could help them do things that they could not imagine at all. Later, things changed. The people in the institute were less exposed to the doomsday gamma ray radiation. Although there were a few awakened people, most of them were at the primary and advanced levels. And that era was when awakened people were everywhere. There were many awakened people at the master and grandmaster level in the Yanjing city on the ground, and there were even a few extraordinary people. The power of the Yanjing city on the ground absolutely crushed the institute. At this time, the people on the ground wanted to force the institute to become a kind of technological slave exclusive to the Yanjing city on the ground. Of course, the institute refused. They were smarter, and after paying the price of many lives, all the staff withdrew to the bottom of the West Mountain and closed the institute again. They continued to be isolated like this, and after nearly 100 years, the number of awakened people on the ground gradually decreased. There were only 2 or 3 grandmasters in the entire Yanjing city, and no more extraordinary people. The door of the Zishan Institute was opened again. This time they acted in unity and had a plan for advance and retreat. What's more terrifying is that all of them are awakened now, and the lowest ones are high level awakened. This time, the people in the institute were already superior in strength, and each of them had a rifle. They quickly defeated the people on the ground and captured the Grand Yanjing city. The Grand Yanjing city has actually become a slave of the institute. In the decades since then, the institute has been controlling the entire Yanjing, and their sphere of influence is still expanding. So far, they have firmly controlled the surrounding area with a radiation of hundreds of kilometers. Extraordinary. Chang Ning was surprised when he heard about the extraordinary. What type of awakener is he? What abilities does he have? Chapter 164. Past events at the Research Institute. Part 2. I don't know. Ming said weakly. Huh. Chang Ning and Xiang Bao raised their eyebrows at the same time. Ming waved his hands quickly. It's like this. The head of the institute has only taken action once or twice since he came out from underground decades ago. I was not born when he took action. But later I also asked the old people who were originally on the surface and those who survived, and they all said that he had a power that people could not resist. But no one can tell what it is specifically. Besides, the extraordinary head is dead, and the new head is his son. The new head basically stays underground in Zishan. We, the peripheral members, haven't even seen him a few times, let alone know what abilities he has. The old head is dead. Chang Ning asked, what information do you know about the new head? Tell me everything. Also, is there a Dr. Jiang in the institute? Ming nodded. There is a Dr. Jiang. His name is Jiang Bin. He is the highest official stationed in the city. We only know that the new head's surname is ZHU. He is probably in his 20s, and he is the son of the old head. It seems that from Dr. Jiang down, everyone is afraid of him, and we don't know what specific abilities he has. Is the new head extraordinary? Amin shook his head. I don't know. The new chief has never taken action. What about Dr. Jiang? What level of awakener is he? Drive Jiang. He doesn't seem to be an awakener, or some rare Stargate awakener. In short, his physical fitness is not very good, and he is definitely not from Shenman. And he has not shown any common Stargate awakener abilities. Then besides the chief and Dr. Jiang, what other forces does the institute have? It's mainly an army, about 500 or 600 people. Each of them is an awakener. They have standard clothes and guns, and it seems that their daily task is to train 500 or 600 awakeners. Chang Ning was a little surprised. Yangcheng has integrated 6 or 7 large cities and countless small towns around it. Now it has a population of nearly 100,000, and there are not 500 or 600 awakeners. The population of the underground city of the institute should not exceed 100,000, right? Listening to the story just now, they developed from dozens of children, and now it's good to have 1,000 people. With so few people, almost all of them awakened, you can tell with your ass that these soldiers are definitely not naturally awakened like those around Yangcheng. The institute must have some way to mass produce awakeners. What level are these awakeners? How strong are they? Chang Ning asked a more detailed question. The lowest are all high level awakeners. Commander Wang in the team should be a master. I don't know if there are any other masters. Ming said. Then what level of awakener are you, and what are your abilities? Xiang Bao interrupted. Ming smiled bitterly and said, I'm a Stargate Master Awakener. My awakened ability is called Beast Tamer. Although my level is Master, my actual combat power is very poor. I can only train ordinary beasts, not evil beasts. Dahuang is already the most powerful beast I can find. As for combat power, you have seen it. As he said that, he tilted his head and glanced at Dahuang. Although Dahuang was being masturbated by Yun Qian and dared not breathe, he still rolled his eyes at aiming, as if to say, don't look down on me, you are weaker or something like that. Beast Tamer sounds quite weak. What about your other companion? Wei Hang? He is a high-level hurricane system. Ming replied. Chang Ning looked at Xiang Bao. Did you meet someone in the same profession? Xiang Bao curled his lips and ignored him. Chang Ning turned to look at Ming again. Do you have anything else to say to us? Ming moved his mouth, hesitated for a moment, and still told what he had just seen Chang Ning and Yang Bao parachuting, and then reported to the city. To say that Ming's character is really not very reliable, including his companion Wei Hang. Although the two of them formed a resistance army, they did not look like a resistance army at all. However, they really wanted to rebel against the institute. Before, there was no hope of successfully rebelling, and they could only pretend to be obedient. They were sent by the institute to perform reconnaissance missions near the zoo, and they could only report honestly according to regulations. However, now that he met Chang Ning and the others, Ming suddenly felt that his resistance career was about to begin. So he looked at Chang Ning and Yang Bao and said hesitantly, I saw you two coming down from the sky just now. Chang Ning's face suddenly darkened. This man really couldn't be kept. Then what? Then I asked Wei Han to report to the city. Xiao Bao glanced at Chang Ning, pulled out the revolver from his waist and loaded it. Ming waved his hand quickly. It's not like that. What I mean is that you won't be exposed. Chang Ning reached out to stop Xiao Bao and stared at Ming and said, what do you mean? Ming spoke quickly. It's like this. Although I asked Wei Han to report, he didn't report the details. The only news the institute got was that 2 people came down from the sky. As for whether these 2 people were male or female, how old they were, and what their body shape was, none of them were reported. Wei Han and I are here just to keep watch for the institute. We don't really work for them, so all the reports are actually very careless and discounted. So, if Wei Han and I come forward to testify that you are not people who came down from the sky, but just happened to drive a vehicle to Yanjing City at this time, then the people in Yanjing City will believe that you have nothing to do with the plane. You see, this is good for you, isn't it? Then how are you going to tell the people in the city about this news? Hey, aren't we sentinels? In addition to being sentinels, we also have the function of welcoming guests. If I meet distinguished guests in my patrol area, of course I can take the guests into the city and at the same time tell the people in the city that you are not the ones who fly the plane. Isn't that good? Chang Ning nodded, turned to Yang Bao and said, did you record everything? Yang Bao nodded and took out a small camera from his sleeve. Chang Ning took it, clicked on the video file inside, and played it for aiming. I'm the leader of the internal resistance army of the institute. My deputy leader's name is Wei Han. Our program is to drive away the cave dogs and restore Yanjing City. The scene that Ming just spoke was played on the small screen of the video recorder. Ming was stunned. Snap. Chang Ning turned off the small camera again, handed it to Yang Bao, turned to Ming and said, so, don't play tricks on me, lead us into Yanjing City obediently, and act according to the plan just now, understand? Ming nodded repeatedly. I know, I don't play any tricks anyway. Let's go. Chang Ning pointed to the armored vehicle, and everyone rushed into the car again. This time Yang Bao sat in the co-pilot. In the back seat, Xiao Bao and Yun Qian sat on each side, with Ming squeezed in the middle, trembling all the way. The vehicle continued to move, and by noon, the outline of Yanjing City could be seen in the distance. Chapter 165 A Successful Pretend. Unlike Shanghai, Yanjing City after the apocalypse looks like a flat land from a distance. Shanghai City still retains the buildings of Yunqing and the stone buildings of the Bund after the apocalypse, but the landmark buildings of Yanjing City before the apocalypse are no longer visible. Chang Ning looked down on the plain before. The buildings he was familiar with in the 21st century, such as the Big Pants in the CBD of Guomeo, have all turned into ruins. It is not known whether they were demolished before the apocalypse of the 24th century, or whether they gradually collapsed after the apocalypse. The people of Yanjing City now live in the forbidden city of the old world, as well as the surrounding alleys and bungalows. Of course, the headquarters of the institute is in Shen, which is some distance away from Yanjing City on the surface. The senior executives of the institute, except Dr. Jiang, do not live in Yanjing City. Therefore, although there are countless outposts outside the entire Yanjing City, the defense is much laxer when it is close to the city. It was not until Chang Ning drove the armored vehicle to a place less than 1 kilometer away from the gate of Yanjing City that 2 knights ran out of the gate. Chang Ning found the gate very familiar. It should be the remains of the front gate of the old world. It's Tutui. Amin, who was sitting in the middle of the back row, suddenly said when he saw the two riders. Tiwari? That's the name of the army of the institute. That's what they call it. Chang Ning nodded and continued to drive forward. In the blink of an eye, the armored vehicle and the 2 riders met less than 500 meters away from the city gate. Whoa. The rider reined in the horse, and Chang Ning also stopped the armored vehicle, but did not turn off the engine. Who's coming up? A rider shouted. The 2 riders were wearing standard camouflage uniforms, with serious expressions and neat movements. They looked much better than the two peripheral players, Mad Dog and others, who were encountered outside Jinghe City. It was almost the difference between regular troops and bandits. Chang Ning rolled down the window and stuck his head out. We are from Eching, passing by Gibeod, and want to go in and rest. In the armored car, Xiao Bao glanced at Amin, and Amin understood and shouted, I saw these 4 VIPs near the zoo, so I brought them to the city. As he said that, he tried to squeeze his head away from Xiao Bao and stuck his head out of the window to greet the 2 riders. The 2 riders obviously knew him and breathed a sigh of relief. Amin, Wei Han just came back not long ago. Can you two leave your post together? Amin smiled and said, originally, that place is deserted, and you can't see anyone all day long. Now that there are VIPs, of course I have to accompany the VIPs first. The rider on the left nodded. Wait a moment, I will report to Dr. Jiang. The rider on the right also stopped talking, and immediately stood there, keeping silent. After 5 or 6 minutes, the rider on the left came back and said, Drive Jiang agrees that you can enter the city, but the car cannot be driven in. Just park at the city gate. Chang Ning had no objection. Okay. So he restarted the armored vehicle, followed the rider and slowly drove to the city gate and stopped. 5 people got off the car one after another. Chang Ning looked up at the mottled city wall. It felt that it should be the ancient city wall scenic spot that Yanjing City rebuilt in the 24th century and preserved to this day. The entire city wall has a Ming Dynasty style and looks very strong. The height is more than 10 meters. It should be difficult for ordinary non-gunpowder weapons to break through. Just after getting off the car and looking around, I heard a messy sound in the city and a group of people came out. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s, wearing a white coat, with a big belly and half-bald hair. When he walked, he slightly crossed his legs, which looked a bit like an X-shaped leg. Chang Ning had never seen this kind of walking form in this era, but in the 21st century, he had seen some people with serious obesity. Due to the friction on the inner thighs, most of them walked like this. The 2 riders immediately dismounted and saluted when they saw the fat man. Drive Jiang. Jiang Bin nodded and looked at Chang Ning and the others. He had a huge circle of eye bags under his eyes, and his whole face looked a bit like a frog. He first looked at Chang Ning and the other 3 carefully, then turned his head to look at the armored vehicle parked next to him, and he didn't say a word. Young Kian Kian looked anxious, took a step forward and said, how can you be so rude, fat man, and not even greet my young master when you see him? Jiang Bin didn't seem to hear young Kian Kian's words, and he was still looking straight at the armored vehicle. The guards behind him all raised their guns, and there was a sound of loading, and the muzzles were pointed at young Kian Kian. Chang Ning waved his hand behind him. Kian Kian, after all, we are in someone else's territory. We are guests, so we should keep a low profile. Young Kian Kian bowed reluctantly. Yes, sir. At this time, Jiang Bin seemed to suddenly realize that there was a guest next to him, and turned to look at Chang Ning. This, sir, may I ask where you are from? Chang Ning clasped his fists. We are from Eching. My father is Huang Siling, the Lord of Eching, and I'm Huang Xianba. So it's Mr. Huang. I've heard of you for a long time. I heard that Eching has a heroic lord and a young hero. I didn't expect to meet you here today. Jiang Bin grinned and smiled very brightly. Chang Ning spat in his heart. If you have heard of Huang Siling from Eching for a long time, I would doubt whether you also came from the 21st century. On the surface, he smiled brightly. We should have long admired Yanjing City. We have long heard that Yanjing City has advanced technology and abundant martial virtues. There is a famous scientist in the city, Dr. Jiang. Is that you? Jiang Bin grinned even more. I don't deserve it. What advanced technology and abundant martial virtues. Look at this car of Mr. Huang. It is really advanced technology and abundant martial virtues. Chang Ning shook his head. It's just the car my father gave me. Jiang Bin made a gesture of invitation. Mr. Huang, let's talk in the city. Let's go. Please take me to visit Yanjing City. Dr. Jiang. Chang Ning took 2 steps forward and walked side by side with Jiang Bin, looking intimate. His guards surrounded young Kian Kian, Yang Bao and Xiang Bao, with a vague encirclement. Humph. Young Kai and Qian made a contemptuous sound, and then her figure flashed, leaving countless after images, and instantly disarmed the guns of more than a dozen guards, and threw them to the ground. These dozen guards were only at the level of high-level awakeners, and they were completely unable to react to young Kai and Qian's attack. It was not until the guns left their hands that the faces of the soldiers changed drastically, and they all raised their hands and made gestures to attack. Jiangbin saw this scene from the corner of his eye and was also horrified. Grandmaster? At this time, more than 30 soldiers appeared on the top of the city, each holding an assault rifle loaded. Yang Bao raised his hands calmly under the city. One palm was blazing with fire, and the other palm was flashing with lightning. 2 grandmasters? Jiangbin's fat body almost fell down. Chang Ning frowned and turned back and said, "You 2 little girls, stop making trouble. We are guests here." Young Kai and Qian and Yang Bao each took a step back and bowed, saying, "Yes, Master." Jiangbin's heart was filled with shock. This Master Huang, his 2 maids are actually Grandmaster level awakeners. How powerful must the power behind him be? Goose City? I've never heard of it. Chapter 166 Mr. Huang enters the city. Jiangbin's heart was filled with huge waves, and his face changed again and again, but Chang Ning next to him seemed to have not noticed it at all. He smiled and pulled Jiangbin, walking on the streets of Yangjing City. There was a familiar feeling here. Once you enter the city gate, there are some blue brick bungalows on both sides, and alleys extend from the main street. There are many shops on both sides of the street. Yangjing Grain and Oil Merchants, Yangjing Non-Staple Food Company, Old Yangjing Cloth Shoes, Dawn Wide Noodle House, Lei Fuin, Jiajiamen Battery Station. Although there are not many pedestrians passing by, and Chang Ning did not see many people shopping, there are really many shops on both sides of this road. In a trance, Chang Ning felt like he had come to Kianmen Street in the 21st century. The road entering the city gate leads directly to the direction of the Forbidden City in the old world. At the end of the road, you can see another tall city gate, which should be the site of the old world's Meridian Gate. Now many blue brick bungalows have been built around the ruins, all the way to the base of the Meridian Gate. Looking inside from the open gate, there are still many houses. Some children are running on the original Imperial Street in the Forbidden City, and there are many clothes drying poles next to the Imperial Street. This political center, that once ruled China for nearly 600 years and the residence of the emperors of the last 2 dynasties of China, has now completely become a place for ordinary people. At this point, Chang Ning has a good impression of Yangjing City. Together with Jiangbin, he walked slowly on the streets in the city, looking at the shops and buildings around with curious eyes. I have heard that Yangjing City is prosperous for a long time, and it really lives up to its reputation. Chang Ning sighed, and this sentence came from the heart. When will Yancheng also open? So many shops, so that ordinary people in Yancheng can consume at will. At that time, the quality of life in Yancheng will be truly improved. However, the surrounding areas of the original Shanghai city in the old world are now in a state of disrepair. People can walk along the roads explored by the old world hundreds of years ago again, and at least they can run into the technological society. Everything needs the joint efforts of all the people in Yancheng, and it will develop slowly. This cannot be rushed. Haha, Mr. Huang, you are too kind. Yanjing has developed quite well, but it still has shortcomings. For example, your mount, the armored vehicle, is completely unavailable in Yanjing. Jiangbin laughed beside him and said, "Oh, this way, let's turn left in front." When they arrived not far from the Meridian Gate of the old world, Jiangbin pointed to an alley on the left and walked in first. The brick walls on both sides of this alley are very new, which is very different from the slightly shabby appearance of other alleys. There are 2 straight guards standing at the entrance of the alley. Bao Fang Hu Tang. Chang Ning looked at the nameplate at the entrance of the alley and read it out. "This is where my office is. Mr. Huang, go to my office to rest first, and I will notify the chief immediately. Our chief is also very young, and likes to associate with young talents like you the most." Chang Ning smiled and said, "Then I'll trouble you, Dr. Jiang." The group walked through the alley for 20 or 30 meters, and came to the small courtyard where Jiangbin worked. The main room in the yard is his laboratory, with his office to the west and his bedroom to the east. Jiang Bin brought Chang Ning and the others to his office, asked Chang Ning to sit down, and then hurried out. Seeing Jiang Bin and the others leave the room, Yan Kai and Qian stamped her feet. Why can you sit while we have to stand? Chang Ning turned her head and hushed. Keep your voice down. Yan Kai and Qian pouted. Next time I will play the role of a young lady, and you will be my servant. Chang Ning pouted. Then you should act well this time, and stand straight for me, like a little maid. Yan Kai and Qian rolled her eyes. Then you have to treat me to dinner later. What for dinner? There is a shop on the street that seems to sell noodles. I want to eat that. After Jiang Bin walked out of his office, he stretched out his hand to greet Ming and took him to the laboratory. After closing the airtight door, he turned to Ming and said, which direction did these people come from? Due south. I guess it's probably from the direction of Hejian Prefecture. Due south. Jiang Bin frowned and said, you just asked Wei Han to come and report about the two people who came down from the sky. Tell me in detail. It's like this. I was on duty at the sentry post at the zoo at the time, and I saw a big umbrella falling from the sky in the east. The umbrella fell slowly from a very high place and landed right at the entrance of the zoo. I took a telescope and observed carefully. There were two people falling, an old man who looked to be in his 50s or 60s, and a woman in her 30s. After they landed, they walked to the east, and it seemed that they were going to the direction of the airport. I immediately asked Wei Han to come back and report, but when I went back to follow them, I couldn't find any trace of them. Jiang Bin nodded. You did a great job. Go and tell Xiao Wang at the door to notify T Wei to focus the search direction on the vicinity of the airport. Okay, Dr. Jiang. Ming nodded hurriedly and backed out of the laboratory. Jiang Bin thought for a moment, then went to the back room of the laboratory and picked up the phone, shaking it a few times. Put Zishan in my phone. After a moment, he stood up again and spoke seriously. Hello, Chief. Not yet, but we have a direction. I'm sending more Tiwi to search there. Yes, it's the southern airport. There is nothing abnormal at the northern airport for the time being. I will send a team to check it out later. Yes, Chief, there is another thing to report to you. Just now, 4 people came to Yanjing City in an armored vehicle. No, they are not from Bingcheng. They claim to be from Echeng. Okay, I will take them there. Pa. 10 minutes later, Jiang Bin put down the phone and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Then he turned around and walked out of the laboratory. Sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. Jiang Bin walked happily from the yard into the office and saw Chang Ning sitting in his office chair with his legs crossed. This office chair is made of leather and hardwood according to the old world standard, with wheels. Except for the chief, his is the only one in Yanjing City. Chang Ning's 3 servants stood behind him with serious faces, motionless. Seeing Jiang Bin coming in, Chang Ning, who was picking his nails with his head down, raised his head and smiled. We are the ones who disturbed you. Your sudden visit has caused a lot of trouble for Dr. Jiang. Jiang Bin waved his 2 fat hands. No trouble, no trouble. I have just asked our chief. The chief invites you to have dinner at Zishan. Zishan is an important place for our Yanjing Research Institute. The chief has never invited anyone to visit Zishan before. Oh, really? Chang Ning looked flattered. Of course, the chief has heard of the name of Echeng for a long time. When he heard that Mr. Huang actually came to our Yanjing City, of course he had to receive him with the highest standards. Ha 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 ha. Chang Ning smiled and stood up. Then it would be disrespectful to refuse. Chapter 167 West Mountain Bunker. Jiang Bin said with a smile. West Mountain is a long way from here. If we walk, it will take a long time. Mr. Huang, should we go there on horseback or take your armored vehicle? Chang Ning secretly pouted in his heart. Just because you are a fat man, you want to ride in my armored vehicle. However, this armored vehicle was originally part of the plan, used to increase the bargaining chips on his side. He must drive it over, at least to let the other side's leader take a look. So he also smiled and said, the guest follows the host's wishes. The guest follows the host's wishes. How about this? Dr. Jiang leads the way on horseback, and I drive the car behind. Jiang Bin's smile froze for a moment. Okay. So everyone walked out of the house again and returned to the city gate along the original route. Chang Ning and the other 4 unlocked the car and got in. Chang Ning, who was sitting in the driver's seat, saw through the front windshield that a guard led a tall horse to Jiang Bin and then moved a large stone block to the side of the horse. Jiang Bin climbed up the stone block clumsily and then used the stone block as a step to climb up. It was not easy to climb onto the horse's back. Chang Ning confirmed what Ah Ming said. This guy really had nothing to do with the awakened Chanman. After climbing onto the horse's back with difficulty, Jiang Bin smiled in the direction of the armored vehicle and then led a dozen cavalrymen to rush towards the west road. Chang Ning also started the armored vehicle and followed behind. It's just that they don't have cars in Yanjing City, and they don't understand the reason why the driver drives and the leader sits in the back. Chang Ning turned to Xiang Bao and said, otherwise we would be exposed. It's so troublesome for you to learn to drive, and you won't die if you drive. Chang Ning, who was pretending to be a young man from a powerful force, was driving with his hands on the steering wheel, feeling a little unhappy. Xiang Bao scratched his head. It's okay if they didn't find out, as long as the plan can be carried out. Why ask so much? Details. Details. Chang Ning shook his head and stopped talking, concentrating on driving and following Jiang Bin's team. This road from Yanjing City to Zishan seems to be traveled by many people every day. Although it is not as high quality as the asphalt road of the Unravels expressway, the road surface is pressed hard enough by pedestrians and horses, and it is easier for armored vehicles to drive on it. The straight line distance between Yanjing City and Zishan is more than 10 kilometers, and the actual distance is close to 20 kilometers, but the team still saw the entrance to the bunker at the foot of Zishan in more than half an hour. Not far from the entrance, there was still billowing smoke, and the wreckage of an airplane could be vaguely seen. Chang Ning felt inexplicably guilty. He originally thought that the plane might crash near Yanjing City, but he didn't expect it to crash directly into Zishan. It seems that, if it was a little more off, it could directly knock down the gate of the Research Institute base. Fortunately, he foresaw it in advance and distanced himself from the crash. Jiang Bin's team dismounted collectively at the entrance of the bunker, and Chang Ning also parked the armored vehicle nearby, taking Xiang Bao, Yun Qian, Yang Bao and others out of the car. What happened over there? Looking at the place where the plane crashed, Chang Ning asked in pretended surprise. Jiang Bin shook his head. It's okay, we are doing an experiment. Chang Ning exclaimed. This experiment looks very powerful. Jiang Bin's old face sank. You are too kind. At this time, the door of the bunker opened from the inside, and a short and sturdy middle-aged man walked out quickly. He was wearing a dark green military uniform from the old world. Although he was not good looking, he looked very imposing under the background of the military uniform. After the middle-aged man came out, the guards at the door of the bunker and the soldiers brought by Jiang Bin stood at attention and saluted. Hello, Commander. Commander Wang hurriedly returned the salute and then walked to Chang Ning and the others. Drive Jiang. Are these the guests tonight? Jiang Bin nodded. This is Mr. Huang from Etching and his entourage. Commander Wang stretched out his hand to Chang Ning. I have heard of you for a long time. I'm Wang Dahua, the commander of Zishanti Guard Station. Chang Ning smiled and stretched out his hand to shake his hand. Also looking at this man. He has a strong sense of power. He should be a Shaman Grandmaster Awakener. It is still unclear which branch he belongs to, but his combat power must be very strong. However, he looks a little too cautious, which is inconsistent with his Grandmaster strength. All the Grandmaster Awakeners that Chang Ning has seen reveal a confident and freehand demeanor, as if there is nothing around them that is worth their fear. From Yun Qian to Lin Yuqian, Yang Bao, and even the extraordinary Lan Ling King he met later, everyone's face reveals only confidence and optimism. And Commander Wang seems to be afraid of something deep in his heart. The chief is already waiting inside. Mr. Huang, please. After shaking hands, Wang Dahua very straightforwardly guided Chang Ning to the bunker without too much nonsense. Chang Ning cheered up. After all, this is someone else's territory. The bunker is a transformation of the common civil air defense fortifications in the 21st century. It looks like it should be a Zishan bunker dug through the underground, which can lead to a very deep underground place. Inside the bunker, there is a guard standing every 10 meters, with an upright posture, like a professional soldier. Similarly, every 10 meters on the left and right sides of the bunker wall, there is an incandescent lamp, illuminating the entire tunnel inside the bunker. Although it is not particularly bright, it is still no problem to see the surrounding situation clearly. After walking out for about 50 meters, a huge pit appeared on the wall on the side of the road. In the pit, there is a huge ventilation fan with a diameter of more than 2 meters, which rotates slowly to continuously provide fresh air for the bunker. The tunnel goes down all the way, with a slope of about 30 degrees. After walking more than 200 meters along the tunnel, Chang Ning feels that this should be at least 60 to 70 meters underground, but the air is not stuffy at all. The slope in front gradually becomes gentle, and a huge space appears. It should be the central hall of the Shen underground building. Chang Ning estimates that the length and width here are more than 100 meters, almost equivalent to an underground football field. Wang Dahua and Jiang Bin took Chang Ning to continue moving forward along the left wall, walked a few dozen meters, and turned into another tunnel. It was much brighter here. There was a light bulb every 2 or 3 meters on the wall. The decoration on the wall was also very new, as if it had just been renovated. Commander Wang took a few quick steps, opened the first door on the left side of the tunnel, stood at attention, and said to the inside, "Commander, guests are coming. Haha, bring them in quickly." A man's voice came from inside, but Chang Ning felt that the voice was soft and feminine. Commander Wang saluted again, then turned right and made way for the door. "Mr. Huang, please come in." Chang Ning smiled at him and walked in. Just after walking a few steps, and before entering the door on the wall, he heard Xiao Bao's voice from behind. "What are you doing?" "I'm sorry, the commander only invited Mr. Huang. Please follow me to the next room to rest." A guard stopped Xiao Bao and the other three. "TSK. Let's see who dares to stop me." Young Kian Kian took a step forward and looked at the soldiers around with disdain. Chapter 168 Noodle Banquet. Chang Ning happened to be standing at the door at this time and could see the whole picture of the room. This is a room of about 50 or 60 square meters, with a long western style dining table over 5 meters long in the middle of the room. A young man sat at one end of the dining table, his face pale. Behind the young man stood another young man with a calm face. The whole room was clear at a glance, and there was no one else in it. Chang Ning thought that he was at least a Grandmaster level awakener with double awakenings. If there were only 2 people in this room, he could still protect himself in a short period of time. So he turned to look at young Kian Kian and was about to stop her from getting angry, but Jiang Bin next to him spoke first. "Mr. Huang is our VIP. We will treat him well. The young master may have something important to discuss with our leader, and it would be inconvenient with too many people, right?" His tone was sincere and his attitude was kind, and young Kian Kian immediately calmed down, blinking at Chang Ning. Chang Ning smiled at her. "It's okay. Everyone here is my friend. Why should I be on guard when I'm a guest at a friend's house?" But he changed his mind again and turned to look at Jiang Bin and Wang Dahua. "This little maid has been with me since she was a child and has always been very loyal. I always feel something is missing when she is not there to serve me during meals. Otherwise, my 2 servants will wait in the next room and my little maid will go in and serve me." Jiang Bin was about to say something else when the young man sitting in the room spoke. "Guests are here. Why don't you please come in quickly? What are you doing dawdling at the door?" Jiang Bin and Wang Dahua shuddered immediately and didn't dare to argue with Chang Ning anymore. They smiled at him and took Xiao Bao and Yang Bao to the next room. Chang Ning strode into the restaurant and young Kian Kian followed behind him. "Ha ha ha, Mr. Huang, nice to meet you. Sit down." The dining table was very long, but there were only 2 chairs, one at each end of the table. Chang Ning nodded at him and walked to the chair at the other end and sat down. "Nice to meet you. I didn't expect the chief to be so young." After Chang Ning sat down, he also exchanged pleasantries with the young chief opposite. The chief waved his hand. "You are a guest, so don't follow them and call me chief. Just call me Master ZHU." Chang Ning laughed and greeted him again. "Master ZHU, nice to meet you." Master ZHU turned around and said to the young man standing behind him, "Notify the kitchen to serve the dishes." The young man nodded and walked out of the restaurant. "Master Huang, you are young and promising. Master ZHU smiled at Chang Ning. I have always wanted to travel around in this world of the end of the world. Unfortunately, I have a heavy burden and cannot leave Yanjing City. To be honest, I envy you very much. Master ZHU has become the chief of a city at a young age, and he has a good governance. The whole Yanjing City has developed very well. If I have to say envy, it should be me who envies you. Chang Ning replied with a faint smile. The two of them praised each other for a few minutes, and then fell silent at the same time. After a while, Master ZHU coughed lightly. I haven't been far away from home much, so I don't have much experience. Master Huang, can you tell me about the customs and habits of your Echem? Echem? Chang Ning thought for a while. It's a beautiful place with beautiful mountains and rivers. Everyone there has a job and everyone has food to eat. We also have magical bat there. Its body is spindle shaped. It can't fly, but can only walk on the ground. It can also go into the water to catch fish. We call it a penguin. Chang Ning was very serious in her nonsense, and even young Qian, who was standing behind her, was fascinated by it. What a great place. Master ZHU exclaimed, after listening to Chang Ning's nonsense. At this time, 4 maids came in from outside the door, each holding a dinner plate in front of them. They walked to Master ZHU and Chang Ning gracefully and put the food on the dinner plate in front of them. Chang Ning looked down and saw a large bowl of hand-rolled noodles on one plate and various stews, sauces, cucumber strips, scallions, garlic and other side dishes on the other plate, as well as a small bowl of fat and lean stewed meat. You're welcome, eat. Master ZHU picked up the chopsticks, added side dishes, and stewed sauce to the hand-rolled noodles in front of him, then mixed them carefully, poured some stewed meat on top, and took a big gulp. Chang Ning's appetite was also excited. He had never eaten proper noodles since he came to this era. At the beginning of Yansheng, he could only eat the compressed food he brought with him, plus some barbecue and the like. Later, Yaozen started to grow crops, and he ate rice noodles, rice vermicelli, and fresh rice. However, wheat had not been grown around Yansheng until he passed by Lanling City, where he ate a few pancakes. This time, it was the first time he saw noodles in several months. And the noodles looked very chewy, and the stew was very tempting. He also mixed various things into the noodles, and took a big bite. Not bad. Places with knowledge inheritance are better than places that are only developed by children after the apocalypse. At least they know how to make authentic noodles with gravy. Chang Ning chewed the noodles in his mouth, feeling very satisfied. Suddenly, he felt a drop of water dripping from his neck, and he looked back in confusion. Young Qian's eyes almost popped out, and she drooled at the corners of her mouth as she stuck close behind him. Chang Ning frowned and glared at her, meaning that she was just acting. Don't do anything weird. But it seemed that young Qian's eyes were shining, and she looked like she couldn't hold on any longer. Chang Ning had to sigh, turned to Mr. ZHU who was eating noodles and biting garlic cloves, and said, "My little maid is growing up, and she can't stand seeing others eat happily. She has been with me since she was a child, and I love her very much. Mr. ZHU, do you think there is anything to eat for her?" After that, he took another big mouthful of noodles. Mr. ZHU on the opposite side bit a clove of garlic and said while chewing, Okay, Xiao Wang, ask the kitchen to bring 2 more bowls of noodles. You and this little sister can just sit down and eat together." The young man behind him, Xiao Wang, nodded and walked out of the room briskly. Only then did Chang Ning notice that this young man named Xiao Wang was different from Jiang Bin and Wang Dahua. Although he stood behind Mr. ZHU and looked like a servant, he did not feel afraid of Mr. ZHU at all. He was calm and indifferent, as if nothing in the world could make him have any emotional fluctuations. Chang Ning's heart moved. This Xiao Wang should be better understood later. Master ZHU continued to slurp, and after he had eaten most of the bowl of noodles, he picked up the water cup beside him and took a sip of water, then said to Chang Ning, "Master Huang, I wonder if your Chen has any specialties? Or is there anything in particular that you lack? As you can see, our Yanjing city is also a big city. I think our 2 cities can share what we have." Chang Ning nodded and thought, here it comes. It seems that this is the purpose of his inviting me to dinner. Chapter 169 Three Forces. Chang Ning thought for a moment and said, there's nothing special about it. In our E-city, everyone can eat and wear clothes. It seems that there is no shortage of things. Master ZHU nodded. E-city is a good place. However, there are no other cities around E-city? Have you had any unpleasant things happen between you? Chang Ning frowned. What do you mean, Master ZHU? At this time, Xiao Wang walked into the room again and stood quietly behind Master ZHU. Master ZHU smiled at Chang Ning. We have a large amount of arms in Yanjing City. These arms are good things. An ordinary person holding the arms of our Yanjing City can easily compete with a high-level awakener. As he said, he looked back at Xiao Wang. Xiao Wang, who had just walked in, walked out again. Chang Ning remembered the weapons warehouse, where he found the armored vehicle. The guns and ammunition in it were basically moved away. It seems that they were moved away from Yanjing City. However, the things in that arms warehouse have been stored for nearly 300 years. How many of them can still be used normally? Chang Ning has to put a question mark. Could it be that someone in Yanjing City has the same Stargate ability as himself and can refresh those weapons? That's not right. If they have this ability, then the armored vehicles and artillery in the warehouse, and even the planes at Yanjing Airport, should be refreshed. He remembered that, when he first met Xiang Bao, he found that he had found many guns in the underground world, saying that they could be used as hard currency to exchange with the mechanical master in Light City. The mechanical master can repair damaged guns in the old world. It seems that Yanjing City also has a mechanical master. These thoughts flashed through his mind, and Chang Ning smiled and said to Master ZHU, that's great. Although our Chen is full of martial virtues, it's never a bad thing to have more military force. I wonder what Master ZHU's Yanjing City wants to exchange for these arms? Master ZHU put down his chopsticks. Master Huang, how many vehicles are there in your Chen that you took to Yanjing City? Chang Ning smiled. As many as you want. Master ZHU was surprised. Is there any awakener in your Chen who has the ability to repair vehicles? Chang Ning nodded. However, I don't have the final say on the dispatch of these vehicles. If Master ZHU wants, I can go back and discuss it with my father. He used this reason to stabilize Master ZHU so that he would feel that he was an important potential partner. At this time, Xiao Wang walked in again, holding a firearm that looked very similar to the Type 95 assault rifle that Chang Ning had seen in the 21st century. Master ZHU stood up, took the gun from Xiao Wang, and loaded it with a click. The whole process was extremely smooth. He picked up the rifle and aimed at a cabinet in the corner of the restaurant. Da-da-da. After a few gunshots, several vases in the cabinet shattered to the ground. He threw the rifle to Chang Ning again. Mr. Huang, take a look. Do you like this rifle? Chang Ning took it and pretended to rub it, thinking that if I could find an arsenal that you have never visited, I would be able to get as many as I want. But his face was very happy. I have seen it. This seems to be the standard weapon of your Yanjing City. It looks very powerful. Mr. ZHU smiled. I know that there are some mechanical masters in some cities in the south who can repair some simple things like revolvers, but they can't handle this. Although this rifle is not big in size, the things inside are very complicated. Only a Yanjing City can mass produce it. Chang Ning nodded. It seems that they repair these assault rifles not by awakening ability, but by the inheritance of the Institute 300 years ago. If it is repaired by technology, it is indeed more convenient than awakened people. Just put a few ordinary people. As long as they learn the repair technology, they can produce assault rifles continuously. You can see that this thing is very delicate. Chang Ning played with the rifle for a while. If Mr. Huang likes it, this gun will be given to you. Take it back to show it to City Lord Huang, and then decide whether to cooperate. Chang Ning nodded and handed the rifle to Yun Qian behind him. Yun Qian was still drooling as she looked at the half-eaten noodles in front of Chang Ning. Chang Ning poked her several times before she reacted, and reluctantly took the rifle in her hand. Mr. ZHU, I don't know if I should ask you something. Chang Ning turned around and said to Mr. ZHU, oh, just tell me, Mr. Huang, you need this chariot. Are there any conflicts with the surrounding forces? Mr. ZHU was stunned, then laughed and said, Mr. Huang may not have been to the north and don't know the situation. Although our Yanjing city looks prosperous now, we still have 3 main opponents who are not easy to deal with. This is a well-known thing in the north and there is nothing to hide. Oh, I would like to hear more about it. The first one is Bingcheng in the north. This city is in the prairie just north of Yanjing city, and its influence covers the mountains in the northeast. The people of Bingcheng have been competing with Yanjing city for sphere of influence for the past 200 or 300 years. In recent years, they have gradually made peace. Now, they provide Yanjing city with war horses, and we provide them with food and firearms. But Bingcheng has a fleet of dozens of large cars, which are their trump cards. I wanted to trade one with them, but after a long time of communication, they refused to give it to me. So when I saw your car, Mr. Huang, I thought of trading with Chen. Chang Ning nodded. He originally thought that Bingcheng was the old world's Chen, but if it was in the north of Yanjing city, it shouldn't be. I don't know which city this force originally developed from. It's amazing that it can still maintain a fleet now. Especially on the grassland terrain, its mobility is simply invincible, and it is fearless in local combat. So it is estimated that Bingcheng will not sell cars to outsiders. Master ZHU continued, the second force is Jincheng in the northeast. They conquered a large area in the west and south of Jincheng after the Doomsday. Almost all of the original Korean country in the old world has become their sphere of influence. The people of Jincheng are tough and have a strong desire for expansion. After conquering the Korean country, the population base is large enough, so there has always been friction with our Yanjing city. Chang Ning thought to himself, this side is the old world's northeastern iron, and they have conquered the entire Korean country. Then the sphere of influence should be larger than the current Yancheng, and the integrated population is estimated to be more than 100,000. It is indeed a strong enemy. The third force comes from the west. They are different from Bingcheng and Jincheng. If there are fights and compromises between Yanjing city and Bingcheng and Jincheng, then we can only fight to the death with this third force. Even Bingcheng and Jincheng are in a life and death situation with them. It is precisely because of their appearance that we have gradually made peace with Bingcheng over the years. Oh. Chang Ning became interested. What are their origins? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Heaven Organization. Master ZHU's face suddenly became serious. This is a group of foreigners. I don't know where they are from, but according to the historical heritage of our institute, there is a high probability that they may come from the western countries of the old world. Chang Ning raised his eyebrows. Foreigners? Master ZHU nodded. A group of guys with high noses and deep eyes. If it were just a different race, then it would not be a big deal. We can cooperate with them and compete with them like we do with Ice City and Golden City. But their ideology is completely different from the people in our old world Huaxia region, so there is no way to coexist. How do you explain this? They claim that there is only one true God in the world, and the cause of the Doomsday disaster 300 years ago was the divine punishment brought down by mankind, because it was too corrupt. They do not have a city-state system like our old land of China, nor do they have leaders like city lords. Instead, they form a strict theological kingdom. In the distant west, they have a chief high priest, and under the high priest there are countless priests in charge of various regions. They call each other brothers and sisters, and are an unbreakable unity of interests. Generally, there will be no fighting or civil strife. As for the outside world, all those who do not believe in their gods will be classified as pagans by them, and they will be completely eliminated from both the spirit and the body. They have developed very quickly in the past few decades, and the influence of one of the priests has developed to a place not far from the west of Yanjing city. The indigenous people along their development route either convert to them and believe in their gods with them, or they are completely eliminated. Chang Ning smacked his lips. This kind of group also existed in the 21st century, but at that time, religious extremist organizations could only operate within a limited range, and most of the world still belonged to civilized society. It seems that the world-destroying disaster 300 years ago also released this cancer of human society and gave it enough nutrients and development space. Are they very strong? Chang Ning asked. As for strength, to be honest, it's average, but just as Master ZHU said this, 4 maids came in one after another. 2 maids brought 2 bowls of noodles, and the other 2 moved 2 small stools. Sit down and eat first. Master ZHU said to Xiao Wang behind him, and Yun Qian Qian behind Chang Ning. Yun Qian Qian couldn't wait any longer, so she took the stool, sat next to Chang Ning, and concentrated on mixing the noodles. But there are so many of them, and they are fearless and brave. After the maid left, Master ZHU continued, normal fights between our forces usually stop at a certain point, and there won't be large-scale losses. But they are not like that. They are really not afraid of death. They think that, if they fight with pagans like us, they will go to heaven after they die, and get God's approval. Chang Ning nodded. He also learned about the beliefs of this extremist organization from news reports in the 21st century. He thought for a while, then asked Master ZHU, what is the name of this organization? How far are they from Yanjing City? Or, when do you think Yanjing City will have a big battle with them? Master ZHU frowned and said, it's called the Heaven Organization. As for the distance, their nearest stronghold is about 500 or 600 kilometers away from Yanjing City, but their outposts have already contacted the peripheral forces of Yanjing City. Judging from their offensive desire and development trend, it is estimated that it won't be long before they will send a large army here. If heaven really conquers Yanjing City, then Bingcheng and Jincheng will be the next targets. Master ZHU, haven't you discussed the possibility of cooperation with the mayors of these 2 cities? Of course. Otherwise, we wouldn't suffer a loss by supplying food to Bingcheng. However, the 2 families said on the surface that they would fight with us, but I'm not sure about the reality. We still have to rely on ourselves. We can't always pin our hopes of winning the battle on others. Chang Ning nodded. When he saw the inhuman experimental field in Jinghe City, he thought that Yanjing City was a very evil regime, the kind that conducted human experiments and extermination social experiments. But after actually arriving in Yanjing City, the feeling was different. Yanjing City looked like a military-controlled city. Except for the top leaders of the research institute, everyone had very low freedom. But at least the basic survival guarantee for the people in the city was still there, and there were so many shops in the city, which meant that there was no shortage of daily necessities. Under the noses of the people in the research institute, a resistance organization with only 2 members was born, which was also a wonder. Especially after talking with Mr. ZHU, Chang Ning instinctively felt that this Mr. ZHU might live a luxurious life and might be a high-pressure political person, but he should not be a perverted person at heart. But the experimental field in Jinghe City always lingered in Chang Ning's mind. Thinking of this, he decided to try it again. Mr. ZHU is right. A good blacksmith must have strong tools himself. But in fact, help from friends is also indispensable. In addition to Bingcheng and Jincheng, are there no other cities around Yanjing? When I came here, I heard that there was a Jinghe City on the seashore. Jinghe City? Mr. ZHU frowned, thought about it, and then said, this city is not good. It is too weak. It will harm them if we drag them into the water. Oh. How weak are they? Have you cooperated with them? Mr. ZHU shook his head. This kind of weak forces are usually dealt with by Dr. Jiang and Commander Wang. I basically don't care. If we have to cooperate, it will be difficult. It is estimated that Yanjing City will support them one-sidedly. Chang Ning nodded. It sounded that Mr. ZHU didn't know about the Jinghe City experimental field. Could it be that Jiang Bin did it himself? What was his purpose? Mr. ZHU is right. If they are too weak, they are not suitable to participate in such things. However, in this doomsday environment, all people are precious resources. In Argus City, we provide a lot of technical support and economic assistance to the small forces around us. In this way, we can drive everyone to develop together. I always believe that in the end of the world, all human beings should be one, and should strive to restore the order and productivity of human beings before the end of the world. Chang Ning noticed that when he said this, Xiao Wang, who was eating noodles, looked up at him with an approving look in his eyes. Mr. ZHU said, we can hardly protect ourselves, and the technology left by our ancestors is also being lost bit by bit. We are powerless. Burp. Young Kian, who was next to Chang Ning, ate at a very fast speed. She had already eaten a large bowl of noodles, and burped by the way. Chang Ning glanced at her, and then said to Master ZHU, you should always have a dream. We in Chen are willing to provide Yanjing with support within our capacity, to help you resist the Heaven organization. When the external threat recedes, Master ZHU can consider what I just said. Master ZHU nodded, but did not respond. At this time, Wang Dahua shouted at the door again, report to the chief, the latest intelligence. Master ZHU stood up, turned to Xiao Wang and said, Xiao Wang, you will take Master Huang to the armory in the back, and introduce our other munitions to him in detail. Then he said to Chang Ning, sorry, excuse me for a moment, I will let Xiao Wang take you around later. Chang Ning smiled at him, please. Finally 300 were collected. I achieved the achievement of the big guy opening a book in one day after 20 days of listing. Relieved. JPG. Chapter 171 Underground Military Factory. Xiao Wang also finished the big bowl of noodles in front of him in a few mouthfuls, stood up and stretched out his hand to Chang Ning. Let me introduce myself. My name is Wang Yun. Chang Ning stretched out his hand and shook it with him. Nice to meet you. Wang Yun smiled at him. The commander asked me to take you to the armory to have a look. Let's go now. Chang Ning turned his head and glanced at Yun Kian, who had finished eating a long time ago and was sitting on a small stool with satisfaction. So he said to Wang Yun, okay, let's go. The three of them walked out of the restaurant door and met up with Xiang Bao and Yang Bao in the next room. Led by Wang Yun, they walked deeper underground. I heard that many scientists survived the apocalypse in the institute, and there is a complete civilization inheritance from the old world. While walking, Chang Ning chatted with Wang Yun, trying to see if he could ask more about the institute. Wang Yun sighed and said, yes, what a good innate condition. If the predecessors could keep learning, they might have led the wasteland humans to rebuild the society of the old world. Chang Ning raised his eyebrows and said, oh, is science lost? Wang Yun nodded. It can't be said that it is completely lost, but most of the subjects have disappeared in history. What is preserved now are some things related to life, but these are only basic technologies. The principles of technology and the spirit of science are gone. Chang Ning was surprised and said, can you tell me these things casually? Aren't you afraid that your leader will blame you? I can see that you are a man with great ambitions, Mr. Huang. You should not look down on the institute's assets. Wang Yun said expressionlessly. Chang Ning became more curious about him. What do you do in the institute? It seems that you are your leader's confidant. Me. Just a maintenance worker. Basically all the usable weapons in the arsenal came from my hands. This is a scientific and technological talent, not inferior to Zun Lu. Chang Ning made an evaluation of Wang Yun in his heart. Wang Yun walked slowly but steadily, leading Chang Ning and the other four into another passage in the underground hall of the institute. This passage was much darker than the one in the restaurant, but every few dozen meters there was still a sentry with a gun on duty, which should be the core part of the institute. Besides the rifle, what else can you repair? Chang Ning continued to ask as he walked. Quite a lot. Radio stations, small mortars and rocket launchers, all of these can be repaired. In fact, cars are almost the same. I have basically figured out the principles of the engine, but there are some circuit systems that I can't figure out. 300 years have passed since the doomsday, and almost all vehicle circuits are broken. Wang Yun explained in detail, then turned to Chang Ning and said, how did you people in Chen figure out the circuit system? Circuit system. Chang Ning said hesitantly, I don't know the details, but I can ask when I go back. Wang Yun nodded. The current technological level is far from the sophisticated level before the doomsday. My main research direction in the future will be to develop towards microscopic and sophisticated development. If there are experts in this field over there, Mr. Huang, I can visit your etching and learn from them. Chang Ning said, okay, welcome. As they spoke, everyone had come to a huge civil air defense door. The two guards at the door saluted when they saw Wang Yun leading everyone over. Hello, Engineer Wang. Engineer Wang? Chang Ning heard this familiar title. This should have been passed down by the scientists who survived in the underground bunker after the apocalypse. The new humans in the outside world no longer use this title. Oh, it means engineer. Wang Yun turned around and explained, then turned the winch to open the door. Inside was a huge space, about the same size as the arsenal of the military district troops that Chang Ning saw on the way to Yanjing City. But there were no shelves or anything like that inside, just countless small weapons such as assault rifles and individual rocket launchers randomly piled up on the ground. The weapons on the ground were divided into two large piles, one of which occupied more than 4/5 of the volume, filling up most of the warehouse like a small mountain. The other pile of weapons, which was less than 1/5 of the volume, was relatively neatly arranged and piled closer to the door. Have you emptied the arsenals around Yanjing? Chang Ning was stunned. There were so many weapons, estimated to be more than 100,000, enough to equip a large army. Wang Yun smiled and said, all that can be found has been moved here, but most of them are unusable. He pointed to the pile of weapons near the door, which was estimated to be at least more than 10,000. These have been repaired initially, and most of them can be used. Of course, before they are equipped to the troops or sold to you, each one will be carefully checked again. Chang Ning couldn't help but think of a movie he had seen in the 21st century, Lord of War. After the upheaval in Eastern Europe, when those arms dealers purchased arms from the wreckage of the Red Country, it was probably like this. Piles of guns, so cheap that they were sold by tons. These things were precious national assets before the end of the world, but now they can only be collected by Yanjing City for foreign trade. He turned around and asked Wang Yun, did you repair all these? Just now Wang Yun said that he was a repairman, but the number of guns here was too amazing. Even if Chang Ning had the awakening ability to refresh, it would not be an easy task to repair so many guns. Wang Yun shook his head. How can I repair so many by myself? This is made by our military factory. Military factory? Chang Ning said in surprise. Wang Yun turned and walked out. Follow me. After walking out of the warehouse door and continuing to walk more than 100 meters along the tunnel, Chang Ning heard a faint clicking sound coming from the front. The sound became louder and louder, as if many machines were running. Wang Yun led them to walk a distance and turned into another room beside the tunnel. As soon as he entered the door, Chang Ning was a little confused. There were dozens of various processing machines neatly arranged in this room, including machine tools, lathes, planers. It was as if he had come to a workshop of a Chinese township enterprise in the late 20th century. There were about 100 workers in the workshop, who were busy and nervous, refurbishing and polishing weapons from the old world on these processing machines. Seeing Chang Ning's shocked expression, Wang Yun smiled at him. This is a military factory. Yanjing City also has more than a dozen industries such as battery factories and flour processing plants. How about it? Is it enough to cooperate with you? Chang Ning nodded. The current appearance of Yanjing City is what he and Zun Lu planned together. Young Chen will look like 1 year later. He remembered that all the soldiers in Yanjing City had awakened and that Li Ling had been captured, so he asked Wang Yun tentatively, besides these industrial facilities, do you have any other research sites? For example, the kind that studies awakened people and mindless ghosts? Chapter 170 to Lei Fuan. Wang Yun sneered. Scientific research? What kind of scientific research can there be in this era? It's already very good to understand 1% of the things in the old world. Chang Ning was surprised and said, oh, I heard that Dr. Jiang Bin has been doing some research. Although I don't know what he is specifically researching, it should be scientific research, right? Wang Yun's face was full of undisguised contempt. How can a person who relies on flattery to get to the top understand science? He is just messing around according to the limited imagination in his almond-sized brain. It seems either Jiang Bin is really a scum of the world and a black sheep in the institute, or the struggle within the institute is so serious that the heads of important positions directly attack each other personally. Chang Ning feels that the first possibility is more likely. He doesn't know why he feels uncomfortable when he sees Jiang Bin. He always feels that there is something wrong with this person. He nodded. I see. But I heard that the research institute has done in-depth research on awakeners, and your troops are 100% awakened. This is a science that did not exist in the old world. From this point of view, you are quite powerful. Wang Yun rarely agreed. However, research in this area began with the first generation of old scientists. After that, there has been no progress in the basic theory. However, the actual operation is indeed better than 300 years ago. Chang Ning asked, then how did you create your pure awakener troops? Is there an awakener factory? Wang Yun did not speak, but just looked at Chang Ning with a smile. Chang Ning coughed awkwardly and changed the subject. Do you have any research on insane ghosts? Wang Yun turned and walked towards the tunnel, saying as he walked, we do have that. We have a special team to capture insane ghosts, and we have also raised many living insane ghosts to study their habits and weaknesses. But it's just research at the tactical level to help us better fight against insane ghosts. Chang Ning followed him. Logically speaking, your army's level is not afraid of ordinary insane ghosts at all, right? If insane ghosts can be monitored, of course they won't be afraid. Even an army of hundreds of insane ghosts can't withstand our hot firepower team. But ordinary insane ghosts are always elusive, aren't they? If they are attacked by surprise, most residents and soldiers in Yanjing City will still not be able to resist. Chang Ning nodded in agreement. In any case, in-depth research on insane ghosts can always help ordinary civilians reduce casualties. But he thought to himself, from Wang Yun's introduction, they did capture insane ghosts, but there was no need to travel all the way from Yancheng to capture a master level Liling, right? There must be some hidden information here, or this matter was led by Jiang Bin, and Wang Yun was not aware of it. Wang Yun took Chang Ning and the other four along the way. They came back to the dining room, where they had dinner. At this time, the food on the table had been cleared away, and the whole room returned to the way it was when Chang Ning first arrived. Wang Yun smiled at Chang Ning. Mr. Huang, please wait a moment. I will report my work to the leader and see if he has any subsequent instructions. Please go ahead. Chang Ning smiled. After Wang Yun turned out, Chang Ning turned back to Yang Bao and Xiang Bao and said, did they give you food just now? Xiang Bao touched his stomach. No, I'm still hungry. So stingy. Chang Ning felt a little incredible. Then I will treat you to that big bowl of white noodles in Yanjing City later. I want to eat too. Young Kai Qian raised her hand. Haven't you eaten yet? But I can still eat. While they were chatting, Wang Yun came back. The chief said that he will not accompany you today and asked me to entertain the distinguished guests. Mr. Huang, do you think I should arrange a place for you to stay in the bunker? Chang Ning thought for a moment. When I was in Yanjing City, I saw an inn. Why not stay there tonight? Then, okay, I'll go with you. Wang Yun agreed very straightforwardly, paused and said, you are driving a car, right? Chang Ning nodded, yes. Wang Yun was a little shy. Can you drive for me? Sure. Anyway, armored vehicles are not easy to break down, and there are no traffic police in this era to check drivers' licenses. Chang Ning has no burden at all. Wang Yun smiled from the bottom of his heart at this time. Let's go. The 5 people walked out of the bunker together. It was dusk, but it was still bright outside. The plane that Chang Ning had broken in the morning was still smoking halfway up the hill. Several people from the research institute were milling around the plane, not sure if they were studying the structure of the plane or investigating the cause of the accident. When they arrived in front of the armored vehicle, Chang Ning took out the key, threw it to Wang Yun, then opened the co-pilot door and got in. Wang Yun quickly caught the key and sat in the driver's seat. Xiang Bao and the other 3 naturally sat in the back seat. After getting in the car, Chang Ning patiently taught Wang Yun how to drive. From inserting the key to start, to the accelerator, clutch, and gear shifting, Wang Yun was a smart person and learned very quickly. 10 minutes later, the armored vehicle was driving on the road from Xishan to Yanjing, and it was driving quite steadily. No wonder those people in Bingcheng refused to sell it. This thing is really useful, especially in the open grassland terrain around them. One car can greatly improve the efficiency of several people. Wang Yun said excitedly, holding the steering wheel. Chang Ning nodded in agreement and asked, how did the car from Bingcheng come from? Does anyone know how to repair it? Wang Yun also showed a puzzled look. I also think this is very strange. I don't believe they can repair the car. The complex circuits in the old world's vehicles are not easy to understand. Maybe they found a vehicle warehouse in the old world, the kind that is well sealed, and no air has entered for 300 years. Chang Ning guessed. Maybe. Wang Yun curled his lips. In the past few decades, the area around Yanjing City has been in a romance of the Three Kingdoms state. Yanjing City has elite individual forces and fierce firepower. Bingcheng has a car brigade that comes and goes on the grassland like the wind. Jincheng has a large area and a strong strategic depth. The three cities are unwilling to submit to each other. If it weren't for the proximity of the Heaven organization, they would probably still have friction from time to time. So Wang Yun didn't have anything good to say when he mentioned the Bingcheng convoy. The sky finally got completely dark, and when night fell, the armored vehicles also drove into Yanjing City. After turning off the engine and getting out of the car, Wang Yun said to Chang Ning sincerely, "Thank you, Mr. Huang." Chang Ning smiled at him. He had a good impression of this young man in Yanjing City. The five of them walked to the largest street in Yanjing City together and entered the only inn in the city, Lei Fuan. The staff of the inn obviously knew Wang Yun and hurried over to greet him. "Arrange a few upper rooms for these distinguished guests," Wang Yun said to the waiter of the inn. Mr. Wang, the upper rooms in the inn are full today." The waiter was embarrassed. Huh? Wang Yun was surprised. "Isn't this place basically empty at ordinary times? Why is it full today?" A group of relic hunters came, more than 20 of them. Before the waiter finished speaking, he heard a heavy sound of footsteps coming from the stairs of the inn. A man like an iron tower walked down from the second floor and said in a muffled voice, "Damn it. Waiter, why hasn't the hot water come yet?" Chapter 173 Meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Chang Ning suddenly felt like he was traveling through time again. In the 21st century, where Chang Ning lives, Lei Fuan is a large chain of inns and is known as one of the four kings of the inn world, along with Langmen Inn, Tang Fu Inn, and Yulei Inn. The posture and tone of the tower-like man are very much like the nostalgic martial arts films of the 21st century. So in a trance, Chang Ning almost thought he had come to a martial arts world. However, Wang Yun and the inn attendant, who were wearing camouflage uniforms next to him, instantly made him lose his temper. The attendant was respectful to Wang Yun, but he was not so patient with the relic hunter. He turned to the big man and said, "Didn't I tell you to wait? Why are you so anxious?" The big man had already walked down the stairs. Chang Ning estimated that his height was more than 2 meters. Even in the 21st century, he was a giant, not to mention the era of starving people and widespread malnutrition. "Wait. I've been waiting for 2 hours." The big man was very dissatisfied, and his voice shook the entire inn hall. The inn waiter put his hands on his waist and said, "If you are not satisfied, you can leave. I have a distinguished guest here and there are not enough rooms. Please go away and make room for the guest." In his opinion, no one dared to cause trouble in Yanjing City. Even if the top leaders of Jincheng and Bingcheng came, they had to behave themselves in Yanjing City. Otherwise the hundreds of guns in Yanjing City would be enough to give all the masters a hard time. The big man obviously knew how powerful Yanjing City was, so he just complained, and there was not even a threat in his tone. When he heard the waiter ask them to vacate the room, his face changed. "That won't work. We have to set off early tomorrow morning. The road is dangerous. Brothers must get a good night's sleep today." Chang Ning interrupted from the side. "Excuse me, how many rooms are left in this inn?" The waiter changed his face to a respectful one again and said to Chang Ning, "There are only 2 small rooms left. The large suites are all occupied by them." Chang Ning waved his hand. "2 small rooms are enough. We just need to rest for 1 night. We don't need a too big place." The waiter turned his head and glanced at Wang Yun. "This?" Wang Yun nodded. "Since Mr. Huang said it's okay, then arrange it for him." "What kind of good room hasn't Mr. Huang stayed in? He's just sleeping here, so don't be too nervous." The waiter nodded and bowed and said with an apologetic smile, "Okay, Mr. Wang." The big man like an iron tower also breathed a sigh of relief, clasped his fists to Chang Ning and said, "Thank you, Mr. Huang. I'm Chen." Chang Ning also smiled at him and said, "You're welcome." Suddenly, a lightning-fast thought appeared in his mind, and he remembered what Zhen Yang, the old mayor of Yaosun, asked him to do before he set out from Yancheng. "Wait, what's your name?" Chang Ning asked in surprise. "I'm Zhen Chen." Zhen Chen was obviously shocked by Chang Ning's reaction, and was a little unsure whether he had a grudge with this Mr. Huang before. "Is your father called Zhen Yang? Is your son called Zhen Lu?" Chang Ning continued. This time it was Zhen Chen's turn to be dumbfounded, and he stammered, "You, how did you know?" Chang Ning was now sure that this was the Zhen Yang that Zhen Yang asked him to find, his son, Zhen Lu's father, the Zhen Yang who ran away from Yaosun 15 years ago and went to the north to be a relic hunter. This is too coincidental, staying in an inn in Yanjing City, and you can meet him. However, the appearance of this Zhen Chen is very different from what Chang Ning imagined. The reason why Zhen Chen left Yaosun and went to the north to be a relic hunter was to find Zhen Lu's mother. It is said that Zhen Lu's mother was a person who wandered to the vicinity of Yaosun from a mysterious town in the north. She was a great beauty that had never appeared in Yaosun. A great beauty who could walk a long distance alone proved that she was also very strong. Such a beautiful and strong woman actually fell in love with Zhen Chen and lived in Yaosun for a year and left after giving birth to a child. Chang Ning felt that even if Zhen Chen was not the kind of cream boy in the 21st century, he should be handsome. Otherwise, how could he be favored by others and give birth to a child for him? Unexpectedly, after meeting, he turned out to be a man like an iron tower over 2 meters tall. His appearance can't be said to be ugly, but it can be said to be very ferocious. Maybe Zhen Lu's mother likes this. "I met your father and your son on the way to travel. Your father also told me about your running away and asked me to find you," Chang Ning said truthfully. Zhen Chen still stared with his eyes wide open, looking incredible. "This world is really small," Chang Ning said to Wang Yun next to him. "Mr. Wang, I met the son of an old friend. I'll chat with him for a while. You can go and do your thing first. You don't have to accompany us." Wang Yun nodded. "Then I'll come again tomorrow." Young Qian Qian was also looking at Zhen Chen curiously. She was very familiar with Zhen Lu, and she had never thought that Zhen Lu's father would look like this. She jumped in front of Zhen Chen and poked his thigh with her finger. Young Qian Qian could only reach this far with her height. Zhen Chen was startled, and when he looked down, he saw a little girl blinking her big eyes and looking up at him, and she also smiled at her kindly. "Are you really Zhen Lu's father?" Young Qian Qian asked with her head raised. Zhen Chen scratched his head, his face showing a mixture of tenderness, regret, self-blame and other expressions. His ferocious face became more and more distorted. After a while, he nodded. "Yes, do you know Xiao Lu too?" Young Qian Qian nodded. "Uncle Zhen, Zhen Lu and I are good friends." Zhen Chen touched young Qian Qian's head, and his expression was as kind as possible. "What's your name?" "My name is Qian Qian. Uncle, can you treat me to noodles?" Young Qian Qian said loudly. "Ah, of course." Zhen Chen touched the pocket on his waist, then looked up and said to Chang Ning, "Mr. Huang, let's go eat noodles. It's next door." Chang Ning flicked young Qian Qian's forehead, looked up and wanted to say to Zhen Chen that I'll treat him, but then he remembered that he didn't seem to have the currency of Yanjing City, only a few steel coins he got from searching the bodies of Mad Dog and others outside Jinghe City before, and he didn't know if it was enough. After thinking about it, he felt that he had sent a message to Zhen Chen from thousands of kilometers away, so it was only right for him to have a meal with him. So he nodded and said, "Then let Uncle Zhen spend the money." Then he turned to the inn waiter and said, "We will check in later and go to the side to eat something first." The waiter naturally had no objection, nodded and bowed to send Chang Ning and the others out of the inn and watch them go to the big bowl of white noodles next door. "Give me 5 bowls of noodles and cut more meat into it," Zhen Chen shouted to the waiter of the noodle shop as soon as he entered the door, and he seemed very familiar with this place. Then he found a table and the 5 of them sat around it. "What did my father ask you to tell me?" Zhen Chen asked. So Chang Ning repeated Zhen Yang's words and told Zhen Chen in detail about the current situation of Zhen Yang and Zhen Lu, as well as the situation after Yaosun joined Yancheng. This talk took the time of meal, and Chang Ning finished talking after several people finished eating all the noodles. This made Sun Chen sigh. I haven't been back for more than 10 years. I feel like I won't be able to recognize my home when I go back. By the way, have you found Sun Lu's mother? You are here in Yanjing City. Where are you going tomorrow? Chang Ning asked. Chapter 174 Coincidence. By the way, have you found Sun Lu's mother? Chang Ning picked up a toothpick on the table and broke it casually while asking. He felt that Sun Chen probably hadn't found her yet, otherwise, he wouldn't continue to wander around as a relic hunter. Sure enough, after hearing this question, Sun Chen sighed. No, Xiao Lu's mother left quietly. She has lived with me for so long, and I don't even know where she came from. Where do I start looking for her? Chang Ning comforted. There are always many coincidences in the world. You see, uncles and Yang asked me to find you, and I didn't have any clues. I met you in Yanjing City. I guess auntie must be waiting for you somewhere, and suddenly one day, maybe when you are completely unprepared, she will appear. Sun Chen nodded. Thank you, Xiao-chan. Just now, when Chang Ning was narrating Yuncheng and Yaosun, he had already told Sun Chen his real name. He was from Yaosun, and he had never used his real name to make enemies or grudges with anyone. He just used a pseudonym to fool the people in Yanjing City. Sun Chen's eyes are blurred now. When we were in Yaosun, we often chatted. She mentioned several place names. Guangcheng, Zhengcheng, Echeng, Taihangcheng, Yanjingcheng. I have been to almost all the places she mentioned, but I have never found this Echeng. However, I will not give up. I will continue to look for it. Just like you said, I may find it suddenly one day. Echeng? Chang Ning was stunned. His external identity in Yanjing City is the young lord of Echeng. However, this city was made up by him, based on a movie he saw in the 21st century. Is there really a place called Echeng now? If it really exists, Chang Ning estimates that 2 places in the old world are most likely to be the current Echeng. One is the special zone originally in the old world. Because of a behemoth-like enterprise, it may become Echeng in later generations. The other is Echeng in the southwestern mountainous area in the background of the original movie. Chang Ning told Sun Chen about this conjecture, and Sun Chen was very grateful. Thank you, Xiao-chan. I will go to these 2 places to look for it later. Why are you being polite? Chang Ning was very happy to meet someone from Yuncheng in Yanjing City. By the way, you just told the waiter in that your relic hunter team will set off tomorrow to a dangerous place. Where is that? In this era, danger often represents opportunity. An important purpose of Chang Ning's coming to Yanjing City is to find clues about X substance, but there is still no clue so far. So I want to see if the goal of Sun Chen's team can be inspired. Oh, that's it. Sun Chen did not hide it from Chang Ning. Our team is employed by Jiangbin. You know Jiangbin, right? The doctor in Yanjing City. Chang Ning nodded. I have met him. He entrusted us to go to the Great Wall in the north of Yanjing City to find an ancient tomb. It is said that the emperor was buried there 1,000 years ago. Near the Great Wall in the north of Yanjing City, the ancient emperor's tomb 1,000 years ago. Chang Ning almost blurted out, I'm familiar with this. Isn't this the Ming tombs? This is a popular scenic spot in the 21st century. People who travel to Yanjing basically have to visit the Ming tombs and Badaling. But it's the end of the world. Why dig up the tombs of the Ming dynasty emperors? If it's archaeology, then people usually have the mind to do it when they have enough food and drink in the prosperous times. If it's tomb robbing, it's even more nonsense. Nowadays, not many people in various places can have enough food, so who still has the habit of collecting antiques? What should we do after finding this tomb? Chang Ning asked. After finding it, come back and report to him. He said that, as long as you find the entrance, you can go back to him for the reward without going in. As he said, he took out a piece of paper. Look, as long as there are these 2 words near the entrance of the tomb, it means you have found the place. Chang Ning took the paper and took a look. On it were 2 large characters in ancient official script Kangling. He couldn't help but fall into deep thought and felt that there were several doubts about this matter. First of all, Jiangbin himself was in a position above all others in Yanjing City. With his position, it was easy to mobilize several teams of soldiers to search openly. Why did he hire a team of relic hunters? Did he have something to hide from the young leader surnamed ZHU? Secondly, after the relic hunters found the entrance to the mausoleum, they could ask him for a reward. Obviously, he planned to go down and find what he wanted to find. But Chang Ning couldn't think of anything that could be helpful to the current situation in an ancient emperor's mausoleum. Logically speaking, the burial objects in the emperor's mausoleum should have archaeological and collection value at most. No. Chang Ning was thinking that he seemed to have overlooked something. The leader surnamed ZHU. Jiang Bin. The mausoleum of the Ming dynasty. This leader surnamed ZHU. Could it be ZHU House Xiao? Thinking of the history of the Ming dynasty, Chang Ning realized that Jiang Bin was mentioned in several popular books on the history of the Ming dynasty that he had read before. He was a favorite of ZHU House Xiao, the Emperor Wuzong of the Ming dynasty, and he was also the leader of the East Factory and the Jinai Wei. He was extremely powerful. Later, ZHU House Xiao fell into the water and died accidentally during his southern tour. Jiang Bin was the only one by his side at the time. More than 1,000 years ago, there was an emperor named ZHU and his favorite minister Jiang Bin in the Ming dynasty. More than a year later, there was a leader named ZHU and a doctor named Jiang Bin in the Doomsday Wasteland. Is this a coincidence? It can only be a coincidence, right? Otherwise, it's too much. If the Doomsday disaster event 300 years ago is completely within Chang Ning's cognitive scope and belongs to a scientific event, then this matter has entered the category of pure metaphysics. Chang Ning can only believe that this is a coincidence. However, even if he determined that this was a coincidence, there was always a lingering cloud in his heart. When you set off tomorrow, take us with you? Chang Ning said to Chen. Chen didn't react for a while. I also want to go with you to see what the things that Dr. Jiang attaches great importance to look like. Chang Ning explained. Okay, let's set off at dawn. Okay, let's meet downstairs of the inn at dawn. Chang Ning made the decision. With many questions in mind, Chang Ning and the others left the noodle shop and returned to the inn. The waiter of the inn was very enthusiastic when he saw Chang Ning and the others coming back. He called all the employees together, brought several large basins of hot water, and took Chang Ning and the others to 2 rooms in the corner of the 2nd floor. Chen rolled his eyes. Chang Ning and Xiang Bao shared a room, and Yang Bao and Yang Qian shared a room. The 4 of them washed up and went to bed. The next morning, when Chang Ning and the others went downstairs again, they saw a group of men and women with rough skin and dark yellow complexions gathered in the lobby of the inn downstairs. Chen looked handsome among this group of people. Chang Ning suddenly figured out how Lu's mother fell in love with Chen. Let's go. Let's go. Chang Ning said hello to Chen, and then everyone walked out of the inn together. Chapter 175, The Forest of Lost Hearts. From Yanjing City to the Ming Tombs, the distance is about 40 to 50 kilometers. In the 21st century, it only takes more than an hour to drive. But in the 27th century, in the state of barbaric doomsday, if ordinary people want to walk this distance, they will probably need to walk for several days. Even a group of experienced relic hunters, plus Chang Ning, and several high-end awakeners at the top of the food chain, still need to walk for most of the day. Chang Ning did not choose to drive there. Only the first half of this road is plains, and the second half is all mountainous, which makes it difficult for armored vehicles to move. Moreover, there are more than 20 relic hunters traveling together, and it is not convenient to have only one armored vehicle. The relic hunters were not as generous as Chang Ning imagined. When they met strangers joining the team, no one came to say hello and chat. More than 20 people were obviously divided into 5 small groups. The small teams were still close to each other, and there was almost no communication between them for other people outside the small teams. Chang Ning brought Yang Qian, Xiang Bao and Yang Bao with him, as if a new small group had joined the large group of relic hunters. Xiang Bao said that he had seen this kind of situation many times. Relic hunters usually only have a few people they can fully trust. For companions who are not so familiar, the most important thing they have to do is to be on guard. These days, the most common cause of death for relic hunters is to die in the hands of another group of relic hunters in a place where no one can see them. Chang Ning nodded to show his understanding. If there are still some rules similar to laws in the settlement towns of humans after the apocalypse, it is completely a lawless place in the wild. If the rootless relic hunters have an accident, no one will avenge them, and no one will investigate the truth of the matter. Therefore, compared with the exhausting relic exploration, killing and robbing may be a more efficient way to accumulate wealth. This also leads to mutual distrust among relic hunters. For such tasks that require large teams to complete together, although the team convener will actually ensure internal unity and not allow the phenomenon of black eating black, it is inevitable that each small group is full of defense against each other. Will there be any dangerous places on the way to the Great Wall? After walking out for a while, Chang Ning asked Chen, the team convener. Chen's face became serious. The north of Yanjing City is the place with the most insane ghosts in the world. No doubt about it. Huh. This was the first time Chang Ning heard such a statement. Why? Chen shook his head. How do I know why? I only know that the number of insane ghosts active in that small area is equivalent to a large human town. The north of Yanjing City? Chang Ning recalled that in the 21st century, it was a very densely populated area, with the largest community in the universe, Xian community, which spanned several subway stations. There were many similar clustered areas, which were the first choice for many Yanjing workers to rent at that time, and a warm home. Could it be that the workers in the old world all became insane ghosts after the end of the world? Chang Ning shook his head, waved away this ridiculous idea, and turned to chat with Yang Bao. It was a sunny day, the sun was shining, and the scenery was nice. It was a good time to pick up girls. It had been 2 or 3 hours since I left Yanjing City, and the journey was relatively calm. Unlike the terrain of grasslands along the way from Xianjin to Yanjing, most of the northern part of Yanjing City is forested, just like the surrounding areas of Shanghai City. However, most of the trees here are deciduous trees in the north, and now there are many withered and yellow leaves. Only some coniferous trees are still green. Walking from Yanjing City to here, you can see endless ruins of buildings under the forests along the way. This area is the prosperous area of the old world. However, most of these ruins should have been plundered by the previous relic hunters. The team of relic hunters led by Chen is not interested in the ruins under their feet. After walking a little further, the middle of the forest suddenly opened up, and a large open space appeared. Chang Ning could clearly see a huge oval building ruin on this open space. This should be the bird's nest of the old world, right? Chang Ning thought. Seeing this ruin, Chen raised his hand to stop the team from moving forward. Everyone be careful, after this open space, the Lost Heart Ghost Forest is ahead. He warned everyone. In the team, there are several people who seem to be familiar with this place and have already taken out their weapons in their hands in advance. After hearing what Chen said, the others also took out their weapons, mainly long-range firearms and crossbows, and prepared for battle. Only Chang Ning and the other 4 were still empty-handed, as if they were going on a spring outing. Chang Ning was even whispering to Yang Bao, and it was unknown what they were saying in secret. Didn't you hear? There's danger ahead. A female relic hunter with dry yellow hair, a sturdy figure, and tattoos all over her face, shouted to Chang Ning and Yang Bao. The 4 of them have always been out of tune with the entire team, whether in terms of appearance, behavior or mental state. Among the relic hunters, there are basically no members with the appearance of Chang Ning and Yang Bao, let alone children like Yun Kai and Qian. People like Chang Ning and Yang Bao, who are delicate and tender, are very eye-catching among this group of people. Especially the few female relic hunters. The eyes they looked at Yang Bao were very unfriendly. Yang Bao heard someone shouting at them, and just as he was about to look up, Chang Ning held his head down and continued to whisper, "She is so rude, ignore her." Yang Bao blushed. "She also means well. You also mean well. Then I will say something to her with good intentions." Chang Ning smiled at Yang Bao. Then he looked up and said to the female relic hunter, "It's dangerous ahead. Be careful, don't die. We still have to continue the mission. No one will take care of your body, and you can only throw it in the wilderness. Look, I will also talk to her with good intentions." Chang Ning smiled at Yang Bao. "You." The female relic hunter was furious, picked up the submachine gun in her hand, and pointed the gun at Chang Ning. "What are you doing? Do you want to attack your companions?" Chen came out in time to stop her. The female relic hunter was full of indignation, and the three companions behind her also glared at Chang Ning and the others. However, under the suppression of Chen, for the sake of the next mission, they did not make any further radical actions. I'll settle the score with you when I go back. The female relic hunter spat. Chang Ning ignored her, and the team continued to move forward. After passing through this open space and entering the forest in front, the surrounding environment suddenly became dark. This large area is all coniferous forests, with tall trees and dense leaves, as if the sun can never penetrate the bottom of the forest. It is a good place for a mindless ghost to live. Be careful. Chen suddenly fired at the left side of the team. When everyone looked over, they found that a mindless ghost had already touched the side of the team. The pale yellow skin of this mindless ghost almost blended with the fallen leaves on the ground. It was so close that no one noticed it. Whoosh! The mindless ghost that appeared turned into a flash of lightning and pounced on the relic hunter on the far left of the team. It's a master level shadow ghost. Someone in the team shouted in panic. The relic hunter who was attacked had no way to avoid it, so he could only pick up his gun and shoot randomly. Kian. Chang Ning turned around and shouted. Young Kian snorted and then turned into a residual shadow and pounced over. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.